is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for today. It's a frantic Friday, or a free-for-all Friday. It is May 10th, 2013. This is a live broadcast. My name is Doug Hagmann. With me in studio is my son, my co-host, Joe Hagmann. Together, we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. For the next 3 hours, you're going to be engaged in conversation with us as we go through the news headlines, provide you with uncensored news, information, and analysis you need to know in these very perilous times in which we live. We broadcast, for the new people listening, we broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. And we're still working on the Dayside program, which will be an extra hour, and that'll be specific to the daylight side of the planet, and that'll be after our normal show. We've heard from people today in the Bahamas. I want to say welcome to our program. We heard from people in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I want to say welcome. We heard from people in Bay City, Michigan, which is interesting. It's up there in the thumb of Michigan, if you will. And moving west, Sheboygan. I've always liked the sound of that town. Want to say hello to you folks, as well as new listeners in Austin and Dallas, Fort Worth, and of course, new listeners in Raleigh, North Carolina. We want to welcome all of you. All of you, we heard from you today. Want to say hello, as well as our regular listeners. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. If you have any sound problems whatsoever, or if you want to have an alternative site to listen to us, this program, the audio, Christians United Broadcasting Network, a good friend, Troy, he is a fantastic man. He has provided us with a lot of abilities for broadcasting. Go to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.com. You got to spell it all out, the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.com. Spell it all out, and you will, in fact, be able to listen to us there as well. Hey, Joe, it's good to see you on the other side of the glass today.
I wish I could say it was great to be here.
You know, it's always good.
Sorry. I thought I clicked the unmute button, and I was being sarcastic. It is great to be here. Sorry.
Did I catch you in the middle of like eating or drinking or something, or what's going on over there?
Okay. No, I've been feeling weird all day, and I'll chalk it up to the pollen, as we have our flowers and trees blooming and looking beautiful, but I don't have allergies, so I might be coming down with something. I'm not sure, but I don't like to jump out there and say that.
We had some infant crying sound effects. I'd play it for you. Or what I should do is get some of the old home movies out when you were a child and just record the soundtrack. A couple announcements before we get the show rolling tonight. Very special program tomorrow night. Back by popular demand, we must have gotten, 100, 150 emails about this.
Another Saturday show.
Saturday show. We're going 6 days now, not 7 or not 5, but 6, and soon to be 7 perhaps. But a very special show coming up tomorrow night. 9 to midnight is going to be the time for tomorrow's show. And of course, Steve Quill is coming on with Pastor David Langford. I'm excited about this. Somewhat excited, but when I say excited, it's always good to have David Langford on, but he's got a particular message to deliver. And the program title is The Great Seduction, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of the demonic. That's the title. And, it's we live in such spiritually perilous times today. And I mean really spiritually perilous, as well as practically perilous. But he's going to be talking about that. He has a specific message for the people who listen to our program. That's Pastor David Langford. tomorrow night, 9 to midnight Eastern Time, a very special program, Saturday night special, if you will.
Every
And,
time he comes on, he has a fresh word, a
yeah.
different inspirational message. And even if he were to talk about the same exact subject matter and topics, each time he came on, it would be just as interesting, as he has a very great mind. He's an intellectual man and a very spiritual man, and those two characters work together to bring just excellent preaching, and that's why he is a pastor. I think it's his calling.
I think so. And Steve and I were talking today. We were both talking, and I said, Steve, man, I am like dog butt tired. Actually, I used the bad word, but you get the idea. I mean, just absolutely wiped out. And he said, brother, I know how you mean. I'm wiped out too. And when we were talking, he said, tomorrow night won't be so bad. We'll just let Pastor Langford just take and run with it. And that's true. He does. Pastor Langford can, you give him a mic and say, hey, just stop every hour and let us know when it's break time. And he'll do that. I mean, and he's such a great historian and a scriptorian and an evangelical speaker. But then, folks, listen to this. Get ready for this. Tuesday, the 14th. The guerrilla economist, the financial insider, he's coming on 9 to 12.
Who invited that guy?
Yeah.
No, guys, last time he was on, I'm putting this off or haven't had the time to do this. Hopefully this weekend I can. I listened to the rebroadcast of the show, and he is a financial insider. He's an economist.
Yes.
But about an hour and 40 minutes in to about an hour 55 in.
Oh yeah, he went off on the spiritual things.
He really started talking about the spiritual aspect, and it was powerful. And my plan was to take that just little clip and put it on a YouTube, because it deserves its own platform, because what he said there, and even as an economist, he's not a pastor, he's not a evangelist.
No, but he can see the writing on the wall.
Right, and the things he said were so accurate and so timely and right on the money when talking about sin and how we need to. He was talking about how to overcome sin. He said you can't outdo your sin by trying to do good to justify it in your mind. You can't outpray your sin, he said, which.
Yeah, it took me a while to think about that. If folks, if you think about that, you can't outpray your sin, and I really want you to think about that, because it kind of works in your head a little bit.
But what he did say was that we have to learn to love the Lord more than our sins, and we need to learn that, or know that, if the Lord does love us, and if we believe he loves us as much as he says he does forgive us, and we need to accept that. And I did not do justice to what he said. That's why I will put his video up on YouTube. But it was very, very powerful, and it's interesting the things you miss during a live show.
Exactly.
And I did, we did hear some of that, but just a lot when you hear it separate from all the rest of the audio.
Yeah, if you actually just tuned into that 14-minute segment, it would be a totally different complexion. We would give the program a totally different complexion, because don't forget, he was a former atheist. I'm not. I say that. I mean, by his own admission, I wonder if truly an atheist, but somebody who really didn't put God first, and to hear him talk about this, so it gave the whole thing a different complexion. But Tuesday, he's going to be on, and the reason too, I think one of the reasons too. Remember what he said, folks, about Japan. I was up about 2 o'clock. I was checking the markets and looking at the various headlines, and I noticed that Japan, their bond market had taken a very serious dip south, and I'm not sure exactly which website I was on, whether it was Zero Hedge or Silver Doctors or one of these. I believe it was Zero Hedge. In fact, it was Tyler Durden posted this at like 2. I think it was. I was up at 3. It was like 2:30 in the morning. He posted this. Or it was some. I just caught it just after he had posted it, and if you read it again, the website is Zero Hedge, and the poster there is Tyler Durden today about Japan. You might have to go back 3 or 4 pages. He's a very prolific poster, and I'm trying to find it right now. But what's going on with this is Japan's devaluation. Japanese government bonds halted. Limit down. Yields spiked to 10-week high. Worst day in 5 years. Actually, that was posted at 0050. But he writes that very quickly. It appears that things are getting a little bit out of control around the world between the collapse in JGB implied volatiles in recent days, today's meltdown in JPY. The last few days melt up in the Nikkei index, and now the quadrillion yen Japanese government bond market is halted, limit down as yields smash higher. I won't get into the further the intricacies of this stories, but for context, this is the worst day in Japanese financial history in the last 5 years, and I think that this goes to what V says.
And maybe he's the person to ask about this instead of you, but what are they doing different than the U.S.? I mean, we're devaluing into our currency.
Well, that's the thing. They're doing it. These are the same thing. That I know. I know the answer to that question. That I know. They're doing the same thing. They're actually doing what we're doing, except I think they're doing more.
So I'm just trying to put this into perspective in my own head. No, he's warning that. And he was warning since before Japan announced they were going to start devaluing their currency that this would happen. He said this would be an indicator of the beginning of the currency wars. And pretty much about 4 days later, we saw those exact headlines. The currency wars, Japan devaluing their dollar. If this is such a big deal that a country like Japan starts doing this and it's causing worry and panic, we didn't see the same outrage here when they started this program with the Kiwi
World
Reserve currency status. Japan doesn't have the World Reserve currency status. They're just they're hurting their own people. We're affecting the whole world with our actions. So, all right. I guess my question is why is it so much more important, or maybe it's not more important, just an indicator. But what is the difference between what Japan is doing and what we are doing? And
nothing.
Okay.
No, and in fact, if you read, what I like to do is I like to read the comments that follow the articles, because most people are like me saying, "What in the world are you talking about?" All these acronyms and abbreviations. But the bottom line with this, it would appear that that Japan is their economy is tanking ahead of ours, and this is exactly what the guerrilla economist, again, I like to call him.
You love that name.
I do, man. It's just, but and we're going to be talking to him on Tuesday about this, because he had actually, I don't want to say predicted this, but he predicted this, didn't he? That Japan would Japan would go, and when Japan went, it was just a matter of time. That would start the hourglass.
Yes.
On this.
And I have the article still bookmarked here. I'm looking for it here. We have, and there was a flurry of articles after he came on, but the first one mentioning Japan specifically was the one that we focused on, because that was the one that was released immediately. And I'll go through these here and look. But some of these titles: "Bye Bye Dollar, Hello Yuan."
That's right.
That is just one story about how the yuan is rising and the compared to the dollar, all-time record highs. We have first shots fired in the currency or the global currency war. Senior Obama official, we're going to kill the dollar. This is something you've talked about. And I played the clip.
Absolutely. And
IMF,
folks,
world economy could end as we know it. Another headline: China fully prepared for currency war. Venezuela announces currency devaluation. All this is part of this currency war that he was talking about.
that's right. And I just want to say this. In throughout history, we've seen with World War I, World War II, and especially the Vietnam War. Don't forget what happened on August 15th, 1971, when Nixon took us off the Bretton Woods, the gold standard. It was to cover the debts for the Vietnam War, but it was also, I believe, because we have no gold in Fort Knox, and people will say, "What a conspiracy-minded idiot you are, thinking that we have virtually no gold in Fort Knox." Well, Joe, on your desk, I believe you've got two copies of two copies from newspapers back in '74 and one in '80, and we talked about this before, where they're refusing audits of you don't have to get them, that's okay, but they're refusing audits of Fort Knox and the Federal Reserve and their gold. And I want to say this to everybody too. Today, I made it a point to call. We've got about a half a dozen reliable, above-board, good, solid gold and silver dealers located here in the area where we live. So I dialed the phone today, as they used to say. I guess now you push buttons, dial it anymore. But anyway, I contacted each one. There is not one source that has any silver rounds, except for the coin collector valued, silver coins back in the early 1800s, but nothing for wealth preservation. Gold is even harder to get. That's on back order. Silver is on like a 2-week back order here, and gold is on, from what I could gather, anywhere from a 4-week to a 8-week to an indefinite back order. I asked what they were selling, for example, 1 ounce and 10 ounce, if they had them, what they would be selling them for today. And I got an interesting education, because I've got to tell you, when you look at the spot price of gold, for example, I'm not even sure what it is now, 23, or silver, like $23 or something like that.
About 24.
Okay. The separation between spot and what people are actually selling the silver for is widening. And this is something I know what you're talking about, because we went up to a coin place not too long ago, I don't know, a month ago, and looked, and it was like $2 over spot. Now they're charging $6 over spot. Right. So when you, for example, when you, the listener in the United States anyway, if you want to go out and buy some silver for wealth preservation, and you think, well, silver's at 24, we'll say $24 in spot over spot, or $24 spot price. Forget about that. That number is growing more and more meaningless. You're going to be paying whatever the market is allowing, and that's going to be $4 to $6 to $8 above spot price. That gap is getting wider and wider, and it has been ever since I started paying attention to this, specifically for this program, not for my own benefit, because Lord knows. But you know what I mean. There are people listening to this program who have money, who are looking to divest from, we'll say, 401ks and invest into metals. So we thought we'd be able to offer them information about where things are. But so the spot price on the metals is becoming less relevant as we speak, and that's due to the demand, and it's also due to the manipulation of the precious metals by the precious metals dealers that are the equivalent of the Bernankes of the world, and including the Bernankes of the world, who will debase the currency and do other things. But it's a complicated process. But all I'm saying is this: don't be shocked if you go into a store, coin shop to buy silver, and it's nowhere near the spot price that you were expecting. So I just want to mention that. So that's
Okay.
so for Tuesday is going to be good, and we'll get a rundown on all of this from V.
Excellent. What we're going to do here, I think, is start with Benghazi. I'm going to just mention briefly here what I heard on the news today as I was driving through our tornado. Monsoon
By
we
the
were
way,
having.
yeah, we did have that.
It was pretty incredibly a golf ball size hail.
Yep.
And we do get hail about once, twice a year. It's very rare, but it does happen. And but not this big. They were pretty big today.
My wife actually thought that the car windows were really
Yeah.
we were going to because it was hitting so hard.
It sounded the same at my place. It sounded like different than when it usually hails. You know, like they were.
Look, before you go into Benghazi, I'm staring right here at our schedule for the show, folks. By the way, third hour we'll be taking calls, your calls. But before we get into that, I'm staring right at the schedule before Benghazi. I was supposed to mention, excuse me, if you go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, our home base, HomelandSecurityUS.com, our home base, and if you can do one of two things. You can either click on the little 250 by 250 box on the right hand side about the National Insecurity Seminar, or you can go to the top and click on the menu. It'll take you to the same place. We will be in Apex, North Carolina, June 7th, 8th, and 9th. That's June 7th, 8th, and 9th, at less than a month from today, or less than a month from now, in just outside of Raleigh, just west of Raleigh, North Carolina. Joe and I will be there with Susan Price. Susan Price, of course, the Gold Star mother of Aaron Kennefic, who was executed in the Battle of Ganjgal in Afghanistan in September of 2009, just shortly after he turned 30 years old. And Susan is going to be explaining to the attendees there exactly what she has found in her investigation from Aaron that has not been reported in the press. This is Fast and Furious. This has been Benghazi. This is real life. This is right here, right now. And we are proud and humbled to have been asked to be with her and to speak. So if you'd like to come down and meet us, talk to us, Susan Price, Joe, myself, whatever. That's June 7th, 8th, and 9th at the Baptist Church in Apex, North Carolina. And you can get all the information. The agenda is on our page. Just click the link on HomelandSecurityUS.com. Register early. Register early because we have because of security issues.
Security issues. No, I know the security issues is a concern, but I'm not worried about it. I'm looking forward to this seminar. I just posted the link to the page you put up on the site, and the National Insecurity Seminar, June 7th through 9th, and that will be a spectacular time. And
we'd love to put some faces to the names of the program, or to the people in the program.
Last time we took a trip like this, we went to Valley Forge, and it wasn't CPAC, it was to meet Lori Roth. And
yeah, we had talked to then I believe it was Congressman Matt Shea.
Yes, Matt Shea of Oregon,
Washington, along with Lori Roth, and in fact we did a show from there, I believe it was. That night, and we toured Valley Forge, Gettysburg. Was it Gettysburg?
No, Valley Forge. What's it called? The King of Prussia, in that area of Pennsylvania. But back to Benghazi.
Yes.
I'm going to start with this, and this is so mind-boggling to me, and how they're using what the news media is saying is that the Republicans and the GOP are politicizing this event using the Benghazi situation, blowing it way out of proportion in order for their own political gain. But I heard a new one today, and this is it was crying inside and laughing out loud.
Right.
I think it was WQLN.
It was
or
NPR. NPR,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And there was a host, I can't tell you the name of the show or who the guy was, but he had a guest on and they were talking about Benghazi. The first question he posed to his guest was, is this Benghazi situation being blown out of the proportion because of the ability to gain political favor by politicizing the issue? Or is this the first attack of Hillary Clinton for the 2016 election?
Unbelievable. When
I
you
wanted
think
to
about
shoot my
this,
car radio. I mean, because it's not just NPR.
right?
It's every media outlet
Well, it's
on the national scale. When we're talking about these mega media conglomerates that have all been consolidated now.
that's right. Now, if you look at what happened today with Benghazi, they had the White House pulled in 14 different 14 representatives from the media for a private meeting. This was a meeting with the media that was closed to the media. Now figure that one out, and it's think about that for a moment. The White House invites a limited, selected few members of the media behind closed doors, closed off to the rest of the media. So it was the selected portion of the media to bring it in. The rest weren't invited. It didn't go, folks. Let me tell you, it did not go over too well with the larger in the venue of the media. This will backfire. I have some information I cannot disclose about this, but I will say that you're going to see things in a different light. I suspect you'll begin to see things in a different light next week. There's things I'm just not supposed to say, and I gave my word, and I'm not going to. But let's compare this to why, for example, why has been, and I know you folks are so tired of hearing about Benghazi. I understand that. I really do, because I'm tired of writing the word. I'm tired of seeing it. I just want to, I just want to retch every time I get into this. It's fatigue is what it is. But Benghazi is by many orders way beyond the magnitude of Watergate. Here's a question that we need to have asked and answered, and here's a question I'm going to be asking in a column. Remember, folks, the issue in Watergate was the White House taping system and the tapes that were finally turned over by the Nixon administration. What did they find? They found 18.5-minute gap in those tapes. Well, if you look at Benghazi by comparison, where can we make the comparison here? There's an 18.5-hour gap. What was Obama doing during this 18.5 hours? From the time Benghazi really started, or that it was made known in Washington that there was a problem, until, of course, it ended. We know that he went to Las Vegas the next day. Where was he? Did perhaps the White House waiters deliver cookies and milk to him and his girls and his wife in the bedroom, in the bedroom while things were taking place? Just like we want to know who erased, and subsequently Rosemary Woods took the fall for the erasure of the 18.5 minutes of the Watergate tapes. We want to know who erased 18.5 hours of Obama's schedule. I think it's important to know that. While American property was under attack. We know where Bush was on 9/11 when America was under attack. He was flying all over the place in Air Force One, told not to go to Washington. For better or worse, that's where he was. Where was Obama? I want to know. I want to know who erased the 18 and a half hours out of his schedule. And for all the talk about the FEST team, folks, have you heard about the FEST team?
I have not, and not to
Okay.
be rude, I don't really think I could care two bits about it.
Well, I think you should. It's the Forward Emergency Support Team. You see, here's the situation: anytime that there's a military attack or an attack against military assets or American assets, I should say, the FEST team, the Forward Engineer Support Team, or I'm sorry, the Foreign Emergency Support Team, the Foreign Emergency Support Team. Getting my acronyms mixed up here.
Okay.
Is defaulted on. Okay, in other words, they would respond. Now they're responsible for the National Security Council, who is responsible for either the Secretary or the Department of State or the executive branch of the government. Who told them to stand down? Was it the Secretary of State or was it the executive branch? Because at that level, in order to stop the Foreign Emergency Support Team, you would have to have some sort of an order, and that's the question I have. So where was Obama during this 18 and a half hours? Where was he? Equally important is where wasn't he? Now you might think that that's the same question, but it's two different questions. Yeah, understand this. The Secret Service and the National Security Council, they have drills upon drills, joint drills upon joint drills to mimic every possible potential emergency that might arise. This does involve the Commander-in-Chief, meaning Obama. Were these drills for naught? So we need to know what lawful delegation stopped the response from the Foreign Emergency Support Team. And the bigger question is, where was Obama during those 18 and a half hours? I think we need to know that. So,
and I keep asking this, and I know, but I need to ask this for my own mind. If we had all the answers, if everything that was covered up or everything that anybody had a question to in this situation was answered with 100% truthfulness, that information was given to the public on all media outlets, would it make a bit of a difference?
Okay, this is where, ladies and gentlemen, it's kind of like us being on the dining room table. I'm going to smack Joe on the head with his Bible. Seriously, I mean, I'm going to smack you right on your head with your Bible. Does it make a difference? Yes, it makes a difference.
Our country is destroyed. Okay, we just haven't fallen yet, and we are, like, what is a good saying for that? Losing it when you lose your leg gets cut off. You're trying to fix it by putting a Band-Aid on it. We're having a stroke as a nation, and they're trying to fix, your toenail. Basically, is how I see this. We are so far gone.
It doesn't matter how far gone we are. Are you telling me that, as from a biblical principle, from a spiritual principle, are you telling
me
that we must not seek the truth? You doggone right, truth is important. We need to know who, the why, the how, the what, the when, the where. We need to know. We need answers for these questions, truthful answers, because you know what? Until we get these truthful answers, how do we fight? How do we have a chance of fighting? God has told us, God has instructed us to be watchmen, has he not?
Yes, and that goes to my point, the spiritual truth. If we don't seek the spiritual truth and have that, I don't want to say under control, if we do not have that part of our lives in order, any other truth-seeking really, it's not useless, because it can lead you, it does lead some back to the Bible. But for the most part, it is a distraction. I mean,
I've seen you walk and chew gum at the same time. I've seen you walk and chew gum at the same time. I've seen you drink coffee and drive at the same time. I've seen you do two things at once.
I have many times, and to your dislike, texting and driving was one of them.
Yes, which the next time I'll tell you, if I could have grabbed this phone one time, I tried to throw it out the window when we were going 75 miles an hour over the interstate. You're doggone right. But see, here's the thing. It's not mutually exclusive. Just because we, according to you or whoever else, we're done as a nation, you don't stop searching for the truth. The truth matters. We need to know. Look, if one of our, we owe it to the ambassador, we owe it to Sean Smith and Glenn Doherty.
Yes, we do.
We owe it to the people who perished in Benghazi. We owe it to the American people. You damn right. We are owed the truth by this administration, and we're not getting it. We're not getting the truth by these people. They work for us. We don't work for them. We're not their subjects. They're not some sort of royalty. Contrary to what they believe, Susan Rice is not some sort of untouchable royalty. No, they work for us. We pay their salaries. And damn it, I want the truth, and I want it right flippin' now.
Well, we don't always get what we want when we want.
Well, you know what? We're not going to stop. Look, I'm not going to stop. Seriously,
No,
I am not going to
I
stop
know.
until I get the truth.
And I know how you feel. I feel the same way about a lot of issues also. And Benghazi is an issue I would like to know the truth on. But I am playing the devil's advocate here because there are a lot of people that say and have the same attitude as I do. The so what? I know we owe it to the servicemen who died there. Because
well, so what?
we owe...
So
we
what?
owe...
The towers fell. So what? 3,000 people killed. So what?
No, it's not so
we
what.
We don't have to know the truth.
No. It's not so what. It's that we are at a stage in this nation and the people of this nation. It does not matter what happens. They can push through whatever they want because the majority of the people are brainwashed, part of this, or indifferent to it, and will go along with it.
So
right, therefore,
let's hang up our microphones.
No. This is where the work begins. And look at the title of tonight's show. Future of Christianity Determined. What does that mean to you? Right.
Well, first of all, that is a statement, not a question. In other words, the title of the show, "The Future of Christianity," they're determined. It means that it's a done deal. The future of our Christianity is a done deal. Okay. That's what it means to me. Right. Okay, next question.
No, that was the only question. But I go on to write in the description just a little something I was thinking as I wrote the title about. I see this level of anger from people, the hostility, and I know that we are told we cannot have our joy taken away from us. We need to be and remain in good cheer. We need to remain positive, happy. We cannot let the evil of this world get to us. And if we are getting aggravated, angry, and in
sometimes
this emotional state,
anger is a good motivator, is it not?
Yes, it can be. But if it is a constant, if you are struggling, so much about wanting to get the truth out there, and then I know how you get frustrated when people don't care. They don't, not just your articles, but if people aren't paying attention to an important story on certain issues. You're focusing on Benghazi lately.
Right.
It gets to you that people don't care. When you try to talk to people and you explain it to them, they're like, well, this stuff happens or whatever they say. It's frustrating, but
it's frustrating to our listeners too. You know what? I would say that people listening to this program right now, and we have a lot that aren't logged into the chat room that are listening. I'd want to hear from you too. Are you frustrated? Whether it be with your family, with a friend of yours, with your neighbor, that bald-headed, pencil-carrying, pencil-neck geek of a neighbor who doesn't get it. Doesn't that just frustrate the living daylights out of you? That, look, do you understand what's going on here? sometimes I know I get frustrated, and you tell me to take a chill pill. I know, and but see, we can do both at the same time. We can cultivate our Christian faith, can we not, though, Joe? I mean, and I'm sure that some of this sounds like the dinner table discussion at
And
many
that's what I was
homes.
getting at. I mean, that the Christian, our faith needs to be the foundation and cornerstone of our life, whether we're talking about Benghazi or Scripture, whether we're talking about the economy or World War III or our own actions that we might take if certain things happen. The point I'm trying to really make here is that the Lord's will is what we're called to do, right?
Well, yes, but it's both, though. I mean, it's, in other words, I
And I'm
look at
not
it
trying to
this
put
way.
you on the hot seat here.
No,
I'm
no,
just
no, no, no. I just sometimes I think that when I look at you, and you're saying to me is, well, it's mutually exclusive. In other words, we can't do both at the same time. We can do both at the same time. We can do the work of God by getting to the truth, by demanding the truth from the people that have the truth, by putting them on the hot seat. Just like, look, just
right.
like Watergate, for example, the Watergate hearings. Let's open up a broader spectrum of hearings. I was listening to this Lawrence O'Donnell complain that there were constraints on the people.
Yeah, there was a one of the people set to testify was not allowed. We went over this story a few
right,
days ago,
right.
and the fourth Benghazi witness was gagged by red tape, according to the Daily Caller. Obama administration officials are letting the attorney for Benghazi whistleblower get a security clearance, but the clearance is such at a low level that it will probably slow the congressional probe of how the administration handled last year's terrorist attack and
Okay, right.
on the embassy in Benghazi.
See, and
That's
here's
from the Daily
okay.
Caller.
I will say this one more time for the people who are new to listeners to this program. The reason that this frustrates me is because Benghazi is a window to the agenda that is setting up the Third World War. This is actually going to, if you crack open the egg that is Benghazi and you lay it all out, if you get everything on the table, you're going to see all the plans for the next war, which is going to be World War III. You're going to see who all the players are. You're going to see who the architects of this are. You're going to see people that are caught in lies, in damned lies, contemptible lies. You're going to see the architecture behind this power structure that is behind Obama. You're going to see, in fact, you will also get answers as to who Obama is, because do you really know who Obama is? And no one has asked or answered that question. Who is Obama? Who is Barack Hussein Obama? Where did he come from? Who paid for his schooling? Did the Saudis pay for his schooling? Yes, they did. That's my view. I
Okay.
believe the Saudis paid for his schooling.
Okay. And that is a problem for a U.S. president to not be have allegiance to this nation due to his
And who
not just,
benefits?
it's not his birth status that makes him an enemy, or it does make him ineligible, but not, it doesn't
Well, okay,
automatically make
okay.
him an enemy. But his ideology of being part of the communist, the democratic.
How do you feel about paying $3.50 for a gallon of gas after
I don't
Obama?
like it, but I'll tell you this, that um, if people would search for spiritual truths as much as they did to find out that, I mean, what good does it do us to know that World War III is coming? I mean, we do already know that it's going to be coming. In the big scheme, what can we change? We can't stop World War III.
Okay, but we can
We
help.
can expose this,
Yes.
but nobody's ever held accountable anymore. 9/11 happened. Who got fired? Not one person.
Okay, but if you take the information, at least you can argue. And the word "argue" meaning you can at least present the case to people who are willing to listen. Who you can change minds with facts, and you can use that information, that newly developed information, to expose the dank and dark underbelly of what's going on here, and people then could possibly start paying attention, and then that will bring, of course, along with that, their spiritual growth, if it's so attached. If not, you just cannot not do this. In other words, you've got to take this and show the people. It's like somebody. It's like hiring a private detective because you suspect your wife or your husband is cheating on you. Well, if you have that level of suspicion at this point, 99% chance out of 100, he or she is cheating on you. It's just a question of with who. So, well, then to answer the question, why hire a private investigator? Because you want the truth, right? You want the truth. You're seeking the truth. What does it matter? If you have, I mean, really, what does it matter? It matters a whole lot. It goes to loyalty, it goes to faith, it goes to integrity, it goes to character, it goes to laws, international and domestic laws. It answers who in the world this guy is in the White House. Is his name really Barry Soetoro or Barack Hussein Obama? Who is he answering to? Who is he answering to? The Saudis? Is he in fact shedding the blood of some of our listeners who have family in the military? Is he shedding their blood on behalf of Saudi Arabia? Wouldn't that just anger you if in fact he was? Of course it would. What about the people who died on 9/11? Could this, in fact, answer some of the questions related to 9/11/01, the attack? Of course it could, if you go back and start following the trail far enough. So all of this together, I guess what I'm saying to you, all of this together, it's so necessary to understand and to know the truth, to get to the truth. You can also have that spiritual component, the spiritual overlay atop of this. They're both one and the same, because to seek the truth is, in my view, is to seek God, to seek the godliness part of this, because to accept lies or to say lies don't mean that. What's that? Okay, what difference does it make? Oh, we criticize Hillary for saying that. What difference does it make now? So what are you saying? What difference does it make?
What difference does it make? Well, I mean, lives are lost, obviously, but this agenda.
I mean, are you not saying the same thing?
This agenda has been in. What do you want?
No, the note you just handed me, I don't know what that means.
This agenda was, like I said, put in place, put in motion before Obama was even a thought, before Clinton was even a embryo or whatever, the little
right
in the womb. It was the events that are going to unfold on the global scale have been prophesied about thousands of years ago, even hundreds and hundreds of years before Jesus came on it to this earth. We have prophecies about the times we live in now. We know what is going to happen. It is in the Bible, and I'm not saying that we don't need to look at any current events, because that is the current events are a gauge as do we see the increase of things happening. We see how much worse things are getting in a much more rapid fashion. And my problem is this. So you have your writings on Benghazi. People are using this as a political football, like Obama with Sandy Hook. And what is getting accomplished? The news media is not trying to save souls. They're trying to save ratings and people, listeners. Benghazi is a serious situation. The personnel died there. People need to be held accountable for that if it could have been prevented. And it's been proven, I think, now that it could have been prevented. Not only that it could have been prevented, but it was stopped. The intervention of our troops coming to help was the stand-down order was given. But even if that was announced from every single city or street corner in every city in America tomorrow, if it was on every front page, Obama would not be impeached. Hillary Clinton would not be brought up on charges and put in jail, like Barry Bonds, who was put in jail for allegedly lying about taking steroids, as well as many other baseball players. I mean, this is all theater, really. And I know exactly what you're thinking now.
I'm just thinking, let me tell you what I'm thinking. I'm just wondering how many fathers out there, or even sons, or grandfathers, or uncles, or whatever, are sitting there thinking, you know,
And I want to say this
this is just, I
to
mean, I've
some
had the
people in the
same
chat room.
conversations.
I am not saying lay down. I'm not saying don't resist the evil. What I'm saying is be wise. We need to pick our battles. We need to pick our places where we can be most effective. Benghazi, this is a great place to be
Good.
effective. Out of all the issues that are going on, it's one thing Americans can understand. When it is broken down, people have family members that took an oath to protect us, people who died over there, protecting or at least thinking they were doing the right thing, and they were left for dead by our administration.
And it's our
As well,
administration. It's this regime's position that even if they had assets, they're claiming they didn't have assets, and even if they did, it would have been
and
too late. Well, how do they know that? I want. How do they really know that? And thank you. Look, I don't. Please, I've got the timelines. Thank you for sending them to me. I really appreciate the people who sent me the timeline. There are some problems with the timelines. For example, the arrival of Glenn Doherty was one of the problems in one of the timelines I saw. I've got them all. Thank you. I don't need any more. But I guess what I'm saying to you, Joe, is look. I understand your need for that spiritual atonement, but spiritual focus. I get that. But part of that spirituality, part of that what we need the facts, because we cannot just simply reside all of the time in in the spiritual. We unfortunately we have earthly lives, and what we're doing here is we're fighting the devil, are we not? Are we not fighting Satan? Are we not engaged in the battle of Satan? Are we not engaged for a battle of souls here?
we are engaged in spiritual warfare
Right,
against.
which has manifested itself in the real practical terra firma here. Okay, so
We have yes, we are battling spiritual forces in high places. We are in Ephesians, which I'm looking through for now, explains this perfectly. Talks about what armor and defense we need to use to fight this also.
well, I just want to say this. Thank you. I'll just use your first initial. B sent a message email to me saying, I'm listening to your and Joe's conversation, and this is what we are. We're having kind of like a dinner table conversation. B writes, and it reminds me that we need to stay informed, pray, regardless of what we see around us. Yes, it gets frustrating, and we do get weary at times, but we must know what's going on so we can pray and intercede. I that was the word I was looking for, the intercede. Even if nobody else seems to listen, we are the salt of the earth, and we cannot lose our flavor. So, it does matter greatly. It does matter really, but I understand too that the end is already written, shall we say? But that doesn't mean we put the book down, or put our swords down, or put our plowshares down, whichever you have, whatever you're called to operate.
No, I really have a question. Where is that coming from? Because at any point that am I really? I'm asking seriously. Am I giving off the impression when we're debating this that I just want to go home and lay down until it's all over?
In a way that you're telegraphing
No.
that.
I said we need to pick our battles. We need to be wise and understand where we can be most effective.
Okay,
I even said
say
Benghazi is a. I did say it, and this is the second time I've said it now. And I said Benghazi is one of those places that can be used to show the world the corruption in the government, the corruption in the leadership.
Okay. Well,
back to the original point. When it's all said and done, all the information comes out.
Right.
How has this helped God's mission? Aside from, I know it can wake some people up. Right. It can bring some people to think to start thinking for themselves. And we all know, because we've all been on that side of that ignorance, our head in the sand. And somebody called and asked you the other day if you remembered what it was that snapped you out of
Right.
that line
I
of
remember
thinking.
that.
And it could be Benghazi for a lot of people. But if they're going from Benghazi to, we'll say, zeitgeist,
Well,
what is,
all
I
right.
mean, do you
To
understand what I'm
answer your
saying?
question, yeah, I do understand what you're saying. But to answer your question, I think we don't know where we are in this timeline, in the end times timeline. We have got no clue, except for the season. In the season is the end. But do we know how long this lasts, really, or where we are in the timeline of the end of days? Or how long this is going to last? So, we have to take the real information we have. We have to act upon the real information. We have to hold up our end. We have to fight like warriors, intelligent. We have to pick our battles, but fight like warriors for the goodness, for the truth, for spirituality. Because by your logic, for example, hey, well, you know what? Why even bother to file charges against that abortionist doctor in Philadelphia? What's his name?
Gospel.
Gosselin. By the way, there's 227 counts that the jury's been deliberating on for the last 2 weeks. The jury is still out on that, but why even? So why go after them? Why not just give them a pass? Say, hey, it's not going to matter. It's the same to me. It's the same context. So we have to continue. We have to do what we need to do in our daily lives. We have to still work, put food on the table. We have to take care of our families. We have to mow the lawn. We've got to do the dishes. We've got to do all of this stuff. Make the beds, whatever you do, sweep, look into Benghazi, look into whatever it might be. We've got to do this because we don't know where we are. And plus we have earthly responsibilities we've been charged with. We just we can't walk around with our head in the clouds. And by no means am I trying to be demeaning. I'm just saying we can't walk around with our head in the clouds in this heavenly Gregorian chant, if you will. Not that that's a bad thing. I mean, we have work to do in addition to doing that. Okay, there's going to be time for that, of course, but perhaps not on this earth. But I guess what I'm saying is all of these pieces, when you put them all together, lead you to the truth. But yeah, you did sound like you wanted to lay down.
And I never, and let me, I'll make this very clear. At no point will I ever lay down. Okay. As long as there is electricity, I will be on the radio. I'm not going to be fighting or on the offensive if a civil war breaks out, but I will be surviving. I will, and if you say that's lying down, then that's okay. But we are, like I said earlier, it's spelled out plain as day that people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, even though there is an exponential amount of knowledge. The increase of knowledge in our time is unlike any other in history, like so many things that have happened in our time.
Okay. And
this is something Pastor Langford was focusing on one of the shows, and I know he's been on, 3 times, I think, in the last 3 weeks, but he talked about this in one of the shows, the right knowledge. What knowledge do we need to focus on? How can you be lost? How can you be deceived if you have wisdom, understanding, and knowledge? It is knowledge not of the Lord. It has no basis or serves no purpose in the Lord's will and His mission, and that's more along the lines of scientific.
I think you're looking at this contextually wrong. It's a contextually inaccurate statement because he's not saying don't look at what's going on or don't investigate what's going on. I think what he's saying is be careful, be very steward-like as to where you put your attention.
See, now I just accomplished my mission. We talked and debated. It's the top of the hour, focusing on this, and I wanted to do this for a reason.
Well, you could have informed me.
Well, we didn't talk before the show, really. We didn't have that much time. as we were doing other things. But the important thing is here, we have a government that is working as hard as it can against the American people to take everything we have, especially and most importantly, our souls, our happiness.
Yeah, they're soul harvesting. I mean,
Right.
really, that's exactly what they're doing.
Right.
But they're doing it through the earthly terra firma events like this. They're stealing our look, the money. They're stealing our future, the toil that we have, our life's work. They're stealing that. They're stealing our children's future. This is their intent, and we have to have, Joe. We've got to fight these people. We've got to fight these people until we can't fight them any longer, until we die or God comes back or they have been conquered. Because we don't know where in this war we are. This is a war, the spiritual war, but we don't know if this is the first quarter of the war or the halftime or the third quarter or the fourth quarter of this larger war I'm talking about. We really don't know. So look, I appreciate this, and I know many families wrestle with the exact, and folks, you might think, well, boy, that's an hour of my life I just can't get back. But I'll tell you something. Is this not reflective of perhaps what you go through at your dining room tables? Is this not reflective of perhaps what you attempt to talk with your neighbors and your friends about? Perhaps we have shared with you some ideas. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, this is a multidimensional, very complicated, very intense, in my view, a very intense discussion.
Yes, it is, and we
very
have,
real, by the way.
And in our talking for throughout the first hour, we did not hit a lot of the sound bites, the things that we need to play to inform the listeners on what we see. I got some audio clips on John Holdren. We got some news about the IRS. It comes out that they have been targeting conservatives and Christians.
But of course,
we have Chris Matthews talking about Benghazi, saying, "Well, no harm, no foul." We have some clips.
Sean Smith's mom.
Right. And we're going to get into those and much more stories on the other side. You're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on this fantastic Friday, the 10th of May, 2013. Don't forget, as a side note, tomorrow night we will be joined by Pastor David Langford on a special Saturday edition. Only the second Saturday show we've done since we stopped doing Saturday shows, which was our once-a-week show that we started this show with. It's been 2 years. 2011, March 2011, we did a show only on Saturdays until we went full-time. Pretty interesting. We'll be right back.
I don't remember that. Boy, I'm out of it. Hi, folks. Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eileen Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
If you love pineapple as much as I do, I've got some great news for you. You're going to love this offer from Freeze Dry Guy. For the month of May, Freeze Dry Guy is offering the finest quality freeze-dried pineapple, a case of 6 number 10 cans yielding 114 servings at a special introductory price. First quality freeze-dried pineapple grown and packed with nothing added. This healthy treat works wonders with salad. It's great for snacking, hiking, hunting, camping, and for adding to your food storage program. And please note that Freeze-Dry Guy's foods will store on your shelf for decades. Order now and get free shipping to your front door within the lower 48 states. This special introductory price is good until May 31st. For more information and a free complete product list, go to freezedryguy.com or phone 866-404-3663. freezedryguy.com 866-404-3663.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Friday, May 10th, 2013, and the first hour went by really fast, and it was just my father and I really just talking, as we have not had a chance to sit down and talk today too much. What we're going to do, my dad is currently on the phone with a contact, but we're going to play this clip and a few other clips on what has been coming out on Benghazi, what has been coming out on the left and the right. First, we're going to start with ABC News. John Carl, State Department, edited Benghazi talking points 12 times.
That's it, just 12.
We're going to turn now to an ABC News exclusive. New questions for the White House this morning about whether it knew the truth about the Benghazi terror attack. ABC's senior White House correspondent Jonathan Karl has been working the story overnight, joins us now from the White House. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning, Josh. As you know, when this attack happened, the White House initially said it arose out of a spontaneous protest over an anti-Muslim video. That turned out not to be true, and the White House said they relied entirely on CIA talking points. But I have obtained 12 different versions of those talking points that shows that they were dramatically edited by the administration. Take a look at 2 of them. On the left, a draft initially written by the CIA. On the right, one that was used by the White House, the final version. What was taken out? All references to Al-Qaeda and all references to CIA warnings before the attack about the terror threat in Benghazi.
So then, John, again, if this gains traction now, as they seem to be direct contradictions, how bad?
I'm not sure why that stopped in the middle there.
Me neither.
We've been having all sorts of trouble with these clips, but
I uploaded these from my residence hours before I got here, so that there's no reason. Well, it wasn't last night, a last minute thing.
I think people though, I think they understand that what they're seeing right now is a cover up in progress. Are they not? Are you not seeing a cover up in progress when you can take talking points and they're changed a dozen times? How does that work? And why is no one being held accountable for that at any level?
Nor will they ever be.
But still, okay.
I mean, we got Obama, and I don't want to underplay the deaths of the 4 Americans in Benghazi. But how many people are killed by his drone strikes every day? How many people are killed through his policies of sending guns to Mexico, sending aid to Al Qaeda all across the Middle East. I mean,
but see, okay, but no, hold that thought a minute, because
No.
this is an important talking point. Okay,
Okay.
What we're talking about here with the drone policy, that is in my view at least, and folks, you're welcome to chime in on this when we open the phone lines. But the drone policy is an agenda of the military-industrial complex. In other words, this is not simply Obama not doing something that he should have done, or doing something that he shouldn't have done, or Hillary Clinton solely doing something that she shouldn't have done or should have done. The drone strikes that are killing people in multiple countries, to me, that is a direct result of the actions of the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned about in his farewell speech back at the end of his presidency. This involves many people, whereas Benghazi is I don't even want to say a failure, but it is a cover-up of immense proportions, a cover-up like we have never ever seen in our generation. It makes the cover-up with Monica Lewinsky in the stained dress look like a stained dress and a cover-up about sex and about lying under oath. This is more than that. And certainly Watergate, the 18 and a half minutes, we're talking about 18 and a half hours. We're talking about 4 lives. Yeah, and definitely. But see, you compare the drone strikes, Joe, with the policies of Obama. What about the 70 or 75,000 dead already in Syria that is going to expand to millions?
And then add this on top of it. The $500+ million in aid we sent Syria opposition this year, on top of the $1 billion+ Egyptian aid package. And look at the famine in the world. So not only are we funding to help facilitate these deaths, really, and in the drone case, actually carrying them out, that money could be spent to save countless lives. And there you talk about cover-ups.
Exactly.
Everything is a cover-up. Everything in this world is basically a deception, aside from the word of the Lord, because everything else is subject to change. Even us, as we grow, hopefully we're changing for the better. But the Lord's word is the only thing that independently stands on its own, unchangeable.
Very, very much, yes. Now that I agree with you, but not to the exclusion of what's taking place. What we have to do is infuse. And as I was talking on the phone during the break with a good friend of mine, he says we're occupiers, are we not? Look at it this way: we're occupiers. We have to occupy. It's our job to occupy until the Lord does come back to take us all away from this cluster, what, okay? But we're occupiers, and we are held accountable for our actions and our inactions. There are sins of commission and sins of omission, and it's our job to do the work to live our lives by the word of God. But it's also it's incumbent upon us to make sure that injustices, to the extent that we can, are exposed, and of course we deal with them. And by the way, I want to welcome our second hour listeners. The station's carrying this program for the second hour. Welcome to the Hagmann Report. We had a pretty robust debate the first hour. It was kind of like sitting at our dining room table. It was an interesting conversation about the frustration behind, well, what does it matter? What difference does it make? Well, all of this, of course, does make a difference. And then, of course, Joe, I have to say this, Joe, although none of it was scripted, some of it was, there was a big punch there, on your side and mine, to drive the points home, to kind of lighten up the various aspects, both sides of the debate, because I know at some points you were playing devil's advocate, and at some points I was going a little strong too. But it's just to kind of punch up and emphasize the debate.
There were serious questions and points
very much
last hour, and most of it was I was 100% serious, but there was an element there. I was trying to do something, and I was trying to get a little bit of reaction from you. I was trying to see what.
No,
I
you
didn't
got it.
want to attack your information because I know your information is good. I know Benghazi is a window into
Right.
what these people do and how they operate. But I just wanted to make the point that this is one very small crumb or a particle of sand on a beach that has been being built since the beginning of time, since the Garden of Eden, since the fall of man and the first and original sin. And
Well, yeah. I wouldn't
it is
classify it
important.
as a piece of sand on a beach. I'd say it's a
It is
piece
important.
of big driftwood in your private beach.
Well, yes, this year in our lifetimes, yeah. But in 20 years, in 50 years, I mean, they're comparing it to Watergate in the media, and nobody died in Watergate. Somebody broke into a political office and stole some papers, and people
more
got
than one
impeached and resigned and arrested. But
No one
here,
got impeached.
or not, okay, resigned.
There was the threat. Yeah, 40-some people did get indicted and quit and got,
But the most important thing people should take away from this is when they don't see anybody held accountable.
But okay, now stop right there, because I want to make this point to the audience as well. When there are obvious crimes committed, and we've seen this with Fast and Furious. You were on Fast and Furious. You were on top of that before I was.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but when you see it with Fast and Furious, and you see it with everything else, and no one gets held accountable, it attacks the faith of it attacks
The credibility
in your country, though.
Yep, the credibility. I mean, really, when 9/11 opened a lot of people's eyes, and it wasn't because of conspiracy theories or, it was because people saw that level of destruction, that level of vulnerability, and while the evil people who were posing as the saviors were using this to put in the final parts of their New World Order totalitarian system to clamp down on America.
Let me just say something about 9/11, because, again, for new listeners, and older listeners or veteran listeners have heard me say this before. And this is something that's been on my mind. We had Dr. Judy Wood on one of our programs. I thought it was just a fantastic program. And she's written a textbook-like book about the Twin Towers, about what happened there. And her premise, I've got to say, I don't think I've seen a more definitive work aside from hers. And I'm not saying to the exclusion of others. However, what I'm saying is her work about the Twin Towers brings up more cohesive points about the destruction. But then there's the other aspect of it. Aside from the physical evidence, there is this evidence that the unseen hand in all of this, the drill, of course, the NATO exercise that was being held on the day, it seems to be part of the template. But even going back a little bit more crazy talk now. Just let me have a couple of seconds of crazy talk, folks. Think about this. I heard, and I would urge everyone, seriously, I would urge everyone to listen to a program called A View from Space, Gary Bell. Now, look, every Saturday night, and he boasts, or he notes that it's the only program that no one knows exactly what time it's going to start, and that's true because of the hockey and sports seasons. But that said, it's 6:40 a.m. Toronto. He was talking. One program he was talking. This is a View from Space. He was talking about the birth date of our Lord Jesus Christ, and based on his information, he was talking, and he said. And he laid this out about 3.5. His program is usually 3.5 hours long. Doesn't take any calls. Has no guests. It's 3.5 hours of just monologue. God bless him. But that said, he affixed the birthday of Jesus Christ as September 11th, 3 or 2 or 2 or 3 AD or BC, I'm not sure which. September 11th by the calendar in use at that time, or the equivalent, I should say, to the Gregorian calendar we use today. If that is the case, just think about that. Forget about me going into the crazy talk mode here, but think about that. If that is the case, are we not talking about a level of evil here that would be so incredibly hard to define and so unbelievable to the average person? Are we not talking about this level of evil that we are fighting? That we're fighting?
Yes.
If 9/11 to use to sully the birth date, the actual date of birth of our Lord,
And
to conduct that.
I don't mean to interrupt.
Wow.
I do believe what you're. I mean, I believe what you're saying. You believe to be true that was his birthday. But I haven't looked into that. I haven't seen the evidence, or if there is any, whether it be historical books or documents.
But is your question?
Where was that from? Where did you learn that?
Okay,
From Gary Bell.
Yeah, because you were writing there, and I saw you writing. Look, no, from A View from Space, Gary Bell. He's the spaceman. 6:40 a.m. Toronto. He has a weekly radio show every Saturday night. And folks, do me a favor. Drop him a line. He only communicates via email. Drop him a line and tell him you heard about his show on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Only because he likes to know where listeners are coming from, and that's all. I don't get a buck for every listener. Okay, it's not that. It's just that he does keep track of that. But no, he did a 3.5-hour program on the astronomical and like 5 or 6 different angles of when our Lord Jesus Christ was born. So now that said, okay, it was he came up with the date of 9/11 or September 11th, 2 or 3 BC. I believe it was BC, and it made sense. It was quite the program. So what I'm saying to you, and what I'm saying to the audience is, if this is true, then we are dealing with, are we not, a level of evil that few people can actually comprehend? I mean, holy cow. Because to take the actual date of our Lord's birthday and to conduct such an event like that, and again, I know people might say, Doug, you're out of your flipping mind. This is crazy talk. But if that, just bear with me for a moment. If that's true, and that was done intentionally on that date, and there are people at levels that know, for example, that was in fact the birth date of the Christian God and Savior. Okay. Then we are dealing with an evil that I don't think many people can actually comprehend. Certainly, I'm still grasping and grappling with it. Holy cow. All I'm saying to you is because you hear Steve Quayle talk about this, the evil, you hear David Langford talk about it, Henry Groover, Nathan Leal, and all of this. But when you just that one point alone in my mind, just it kind of put me to the edge and thinking, okay, this is something more than any of us signed on for, right? This is something more than any of us could ever imagine. That's just me. I don't even know how I got off on that tangent, but if you want to do this, go ahead, Joe. If you want to do this, but that's just me. The level of evil that we're dealing with is beyond anyone's remote comprehension. That's my view.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, you're up.
It is absolutely crazy what is happening. A few headlines I'm going to hit here while I'm waiting for a response.
All right.
EU, the European Union, young and jobless. Portugal, brain dead. 60% youth unemployment in Greece. Low wages and a lack of available jobs are plaguing the EU's young and educated. The title said they were brain dead.
But this is coming to America. You see, what are we doing right now? We're sending our children, and those of you who have children, to college, and you're paying the college.
What they're doing is they are taxing the people who generate the jobs and the really put the true boost into the economy when it is a free market, and they are taxing and regulating these people out of existence to bring in this mega corporation conglomerate friendly fascist system where the Walmarts of the world rule as they get exemptions from Obamacare, as they get exemptions and special tax statuses. Yet the average business owner who works probably more than the board of the whole board, everyone on the board of directors of Walmart each week.
Right.
Is when we read the story, small businesses or personal businesses, self-employment in America is disappearing at an alarming rate. We have food stamps that were doubled under George Bush's presidency. They have now doubled under Obama's presidency.
Obama, that's right.
Almost 50 million people, and out of those, there are at least one other person that depends on those food stamps besides the recipient, so that's automatically 100 million people, and that's very conservative. We have a situation where things can go bad really fast with minimal effort on their part. They have to push a button, turn off the electronic bread lines.
But see, and this is one thing that I was looking at. I was doing some research today, Joe. I got to tell you this. For every problem that you can come up with, and this is my belief, folks, for every problem that we talk about, whether it's domestic or foreign, whether it's the economy or the war, whether it's civil unrest or racial unrest or economic unrest, you see, I believe they have created a solution or a number of solutions to employ, kind of like off the shelf, kind of like the video was for Benghazi. They yanked that off the shelf as a go-to reason to, like a fallback position, for example. Let's blame it on this. They knew it was there. This was a Brennan, and oh, by the way, since I brought up Benghazi again, that video, as far as my research has taken me, can be traced back to the Muslim-in-chief of the CIA, John Brennan. But it's my view that they have these rack of solutions, these numerous solutions made. The problems they know about, the problems they can exploit at any given time. What solutions are they going to employ? It's going to be the best solution they use to further exploit the problem and further their agenda. So what's their agenda? Well, their agenda is to enslave all of America and the entirety of the world. That sounds like a pretty ambitious plan, but when you look at the numbers, as you pointed out, you've got an attack on small businesses where you've got no startups. You've got 60% teen unemployment in Greece and Europe. A lot of Europe. Well, what do we have here? You got parents sending their kids to college, or kids coming out of college with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt that can't find a job. They're working at Burger King, cannot possibly pay back the student loan debt. Hey, we have a solution for that too.
What does it say about this country when a person working one job, even up to 60 hours a week, is not enough to support themselves, let alone a family?
What does it say about this country?
There was a point in time where the men would go to work. It would be a career. They would be compensated properly. They would have retirement set up, no matter what job it was, for the most part.
Well, I do know this. I like the time when Ward would go off and pick up the Beeve and Wally after school and take them to their baseball practices, and then sit down all together. Ward and June and Wally and the Beeve, the Cleavers, all sit down for dinner and not have to worry about a second job. Okay,
and that America, unfortunately, is gone. But I don't want to keep Michael waiting. A friend of the show is coming on right now. He wants to weigh in on what we were talking about in the first hour.
All right, Michael. Well, Michael, what do you want to weigh
A
in?
man of
Weigh
the
in.
Lord, Michael, you are live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Well, I don't
Fantastic.
know. I don't know, Michael. You tell
Oh,
us
you
how we're
guys,
doing.
I wanted to weigh on one thing specifically. The A lot of people are beginning to get confused, wrapped up in the fight that keeps popping up. Now, first, I'd like to say, Doug, I totally understand your emotions behind this thing because you have likely viewed the rise and fall of things. And seeing it for so long, you can actually see where it's going. But here's what I wanted to address. How do we define fight? How do we fight these issues correctly, effectively? There's fighting that is ineffective, and there's fighting that is highly effective. So I wanted to see how should we define fighting. I have my own ideas, my own opinions, but I think that's a very important topic to cover because what's happening is
Well, can we hear them?
not only, say again?
Can we hear your ideas? How do you define fighting?
Well, I'll say this. I'll give you a question. How did the elite, the so-called elite, how did they fight and what did they fight for? And I'll give you an answer. They fight to keep information secret. Anybody who can observe the news, political actions, and so forth, wars, basically it boils down to, other than controlling resources, you're looking at fighting to keep things secret. This is where the heinous crimes come from. You know, when people get murdered overseas, they fight to keep things secret. And there's no cost to them. They don't see murder as murder. So how could one counter that? I would say, my own opinion, is that when information is disseminated, when it's disseminated on a broad base or to the individual, it's to keep people informed of happening in an effort that they won't become emotionally compromised or live in ignorance. I think that is the primary way to fight these forces that are going on, to keep people informed. Now, you two guys are already doing that, but there's a common ground. There are many people who are angry. They're angry because they can see these things and they cannot, for the life of them, see why nobody else sees things. I, too, am guilty of this sometimes. I can see things happening, and I often ask myself why. Why is the public not seeing the truth behind this? But then if you step back, it's an education factor. You know, people have to be educated on the moves of the enemy. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but I hate to tell you that. If you don't know what the enemy is doing, you can't see the enemy, and he will slit your throat, period. Even in the Bible, it says that God himself will not have you ignorant concerning the devices of the enemy. So in order for that to become effective, we have to become accustomed to gathering information using what we are given to live in this life to decode that information in truth, and then we need to go from there. But we certainly need to educate each other about what's really going on. And
Well, steel sharpens steel, too, you know. I just want to throw that in there. Go on.
Yeah, and the word, and a lot of, because see what's happening is a lot of people are being emotionally compromised by what's going on. And it is extremely aggravating, and it's going to get worse. Because the fact is this, that in my opinion, both sides are dirty. Both sides are dirty. And that they seem to conjure up these emotional triggers in people to get them more and more involved in one thing, while the entire populace is ignoring another thing. And like Joe had once said, and you said yourself, these things run very, very deep. However, in just about every single case, they never cover up the initial stage, the initial foundation of what triggered that event. Now, with investigations, there's always something that's left out. There's always a slip-up. There's always a clue. There's always that one major thing that gives light to the entire story. And normally, especially in criminal defense, you find that at the beginning stages of an act. Normally, there's a small slip-up in the very beginning. It's often overlooked. And it turns out that's the most important piece of evidence that anyone could ever collect. This is the same situation we're facing. And the only way that we truly can fight this is to keep each other informed as best we can so that we're equipped. We can actually see what's going on. Because if a person can't see, they're already dead. They're dead. And this is what people are saying. When you talk to your neighbor who cannot understand what you're saying, they're already compromised. They're in the system, so to speak. They cannot see. And that's the aggravating part, other than the country being torn to pieces.
Right, but we cannot. Okay, but is it not our job, as long as we'll say the neighbor is mentally, the neurons are still firing in their brains, they're upright, walking, taking nourishment, and otherwise functioning? Is it not our job to talk to them intelligently? And we don't have, we're not going to be able, you can't lead a horse to water and force that horse to drink, but you can certainly provide, you don't know what piece of information, what sentence, what statement that you might make that could be the tipping point for that person. And that could start a chain reaction where that person could not only see the light, but find God as well. This is what I'm saying.
Exactly. And that can never stop. A lot of people want to stop. They get so frustrated, they'll say, well, I'll just give up. And there comes a point from people after you are able to see and can identify a dead horse. You call it a dead horse, but in most cases, these people are beguiled. And you're right. It takes one element they can relate to that can open their eyes. But if we give up, then that element will never be found, and their blood is on our hands.
Very much,
that's
as Jeremiah says.
We really have to disseminate information on a continuous basis so that we're all informed, because there's no way even a Christian can read that Bible, shut their eyes to the world, and say, I'm going to be safe. It won't happen like that. That's like running in a highway with your eyes shut. You can pray all day, you can do everything right, and you're going to get hit by a car. It's the same process. So if we can take this information and apply it to what we're taught biblically, then we can fight. Because many people want to fight, but they're not equipped to fight. They have not defined fighting. They certainly don't have the armor. And once we get emotionally compromised, the armor comes off. If God does not exist in anger, that within itself will destroy many people. In fact, that's written about in the Bible.
Well, okay. Look, I agree with you, because I throw around the word anger quite frequently, and I say anger is a great motivator, fear is a great motivator, but perhaps anger is the wrong term. The unwillingness to accept a lie, the unwillingness to become subjects of this royal elite, this Illuminati, this Luciferian mindset, the unwillingness for me to allow my children to be sold into slavery. I'll tell you what, maybe that is anger, but I'll damn well say this: that's righteous anger in my view. I have a right to be angry, because no one is going to take my child, my grandchild, or any member of my family and put them in slavery, into bondage, which is exactly what they're trying to do. And I am going to spend every waking moment, every second of my time, certainly with understanding, with the prayers and the armor of God, in a righteous manner, to expose this. If that's anger, is that a wrong? Is that wrong?
No, I'll say this, Doug. I'll say this. There is anger, right? and there's our expression of our passion. Okay? Now, we're human. We don't always express our passions, and yes, that's something we all have to work on. But so long as you're disseminating information, and that's what you're doing, you're exposing. To expose is to give out this information and to let people know about this information. And believe me, you may give out to 100 people and 2 people will act. Well, that kind of catches on. The more information you give out to point out these things, the better it equips the Christian, the better it equips those around you. It opens ears and eyes, because surely, as we all breathe fresh air, one day, some things you say will come to pass. These things you've been hitting on, they'll come to pass. But what it will cause a person to do is reassert the information you gave them in the first place. And they'll say, there's something to this. Let me go back here and see. Which puts them on a path to truth. Now, the anger I'm speaking of is you have some radicals. To become a radical on either side is when you're emotionally compromised, you're so angry that you can no longer see anything else. You no longer see resolve. You just want revenge. You see what I'm saying? That's the anger that is not
well,
good.
it's self-destructive.
But to
That's
act on your
self-destructive.
passion. You're passionate about not letting this catastrophe hit your children and those you care about blindly. Personally, I don't see that as anger. I see that as a passion, a spoken passion of what you just simply won't permit.
Okay.
You won't permit. But the other anger is what I'm talking about, because a lot of people say we need to fight, but the word fight needs to be defined, or radicals can be formed. They really can be formed. And right now there's spiritual compromise going on. There are events that not a soul is looking at that's actually taking place. And I can tell you right now that many, many things are distracting people to get them off guard, because in the end, they're going to turn brother against brother, father against son, daughters against mothers. This is what they're going to do. They're going to hide one day. They're not going to be found. There will be no police, no military, no official, which is going to leave every civilian by themselves, and then you can imagine yourself what's going to take place.
Share, Michael, if you will. Give us insight into one larger aspect that you're talking about, if you can, if you will.
Well, I'll give you a hint. Many people have seen military equipment come and go. They're just going everywhere. There are a lot of training sessions taking place all over the cities. There are hubs set up, information hubs. Just 2 days ago, a system went live, a system that's plugged in everything, so to speak. These things are putting into play, but people who are seeing vehicles move, they're only going one direction. They never come back. Nobody's ever questioned that. No, these vehicles have been moving since last year.
When you say one direction, I'm going to fill in the blank here and say away from the coastlines of the United States, the continental United States. Is that a fair, an accurate assessment?
Well, yeah, you're right in that part, but think of this. If you look at some of the convoys that have been moving, especially those that are loaded on trains, if you look very closely, you can see an actual military vehicle, and then you can see a shell that's missing parts. It looks too smooth. Some of the corners are not quite there yet. In other words, you're seeing dummies. That's what you're seeing. You may see 3 APCs and 16 dummies, containers, designed to look like APCs. I encourage people to go over footage and look with their own eyes.
Okay. Now
you're
this
only seeing them go in one direction.
Yeah.
Normally, if they're training at NTC, they will do a train load. They'll load these vehicles up, go to NTC. So many weeks after that, they're coming back. They're not coming back. They're going one way. And in most cases, they are the exact same type vehicles. Now, no one's going to ship 600 Humvees to the National Training Center. They're just not going to do that. but some of the Humvees don't look right. You just have to observe and look. There are a lot of dummy shells on trains. Now, you can figure out what's in the dummy shell, kind of like a suitcase or a package. But most people see it as military vehicles. You've been conditioned to see the movement in military vehicles, so you don't question. Some of them are not. They're going somewhere. They're not coming back.
Okay, you're leaving me obviously with more questions than answers. What you're saying is, well, let me ask you this: the dummy, for lack of a better term, the dummy Humvees are shipping something else. They're hiding something that doesn't
Well,
move.
if they're containers, they don't want you to see what's in those containers. Now,
All right.
if I were to hide something, let's just say that I'm going through a neighborhood. I have to take some items through a neighborhood, but I'm going through a neighborhood where they don't have ample supplies of things. And let's just say that I know if they saw me shipping food, right, if they saw me shipping that into the middle of nowhere, it would raise red flags with everyone. So I would disguise it. No one really sees the military, no one ever sees the military shipping food supplies, perishables, and things of that nature. Do you know why? Because that would sell for red flag. If you saw the military shipping massive amounts of meals ready to eat, of all sorts of perishables, food stocks, creature comforts, supplies that you know is used for people to really hunker down, everybody would get nervous. It would be on the news. It would be everywhere. So they hide what they ship. And they feed stories and situations very elegantly so that no one pays attention to what's in front of their faces because they can't see it. I say take the time to observe the small things.
Do I dare ask where we're going with this, though? I mean, in a larger sense, what do you? I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm ignorant here. I hear what you're saying. I hear the words coming from your mouth. I understand what you're saying. I respect it. But where are we going with this? What are you telling us aside from looking?
It's not just happening here. It's happening everywhere. And
Okay.
to my knowledge, there is a deadline, but they're not staying on top of the ground.
Okay, but what's the it? I mean, maybe I'm missing something here. What's the it that's, for example, what are they shipping? Are you telling me they're shipping food supplies, or are you saying, hey, maybe they are shipping food supplies?
I'll tell you, they're shipping everything.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm correct in saying this, but I think what you're saying is that they only want us to see what they only show us what they want us to see. They're not going to do things or be sloppy in their what they are setting up. They're setting up the legislation that it's in place, the facilities, the people, the personnels from the different agencies to commit or to carry out an agenda. And it is not going to be so easily seen like tanks on a railway that people videotape.
Well, if I dare ask this question, what is it that they don't want us to see? What is it that they don't want us to know? What is being hidden? What is the issue here? Is it a natural disaster? Is it an atomic attack? Is it the invasion from Russia and China? Is it a UFO deception? Is it the ghost of Joseph Stalin coming appearing in the sky? What are we talking about
Okay,
here?
now you're talking about something I can get into. Okay.
I
want you to
It's
think
the
about
Stalin deal, right? It's Stalin. I knew that. All right.
There are scenarios. There are 5 or 6 scenarios 5 are out of our hands. 1 is not. And you said it yourself, and that should be looked into. There's a contingency that should a natural event take place prior to May of 2014, then they're going to lock themselves down.
Hence the seat vaults, right? The underground cities, the Denver International Airport complex, the movement of the continuity of government from Mount Weather to Denver, whatever you want to call it, the underground cities, the tubes, all this
Foreign
stuff.
military training, yeah.
So what they're saying is, okay, now we're fixing on saving ourselves. The hell with you, Doug, Joe, and every listener out there, right?
Follow those supplies, and you may come to that conclusion because they're still traveling. This is every 4 to 5 days they're moving this. Helicopters are sent for support. They seem to follow their convoys. People are getting arrested for trying to see what's under the tarps of the convoys. These are stories you don't hear about. They're kept local. People are being arrested. People are being detained. Some people are being hurt simply because they're trying to videotape the convoy. Those stories are not getting out.
Why not? Let me tell you something.
Well,
if Joe went out there to videotape something and he was arrested, hurt, or otherwise compromised, you doggone better count on the fact that I'll be yipping. I'll be telling everybody in the world what happened. Why aren't these stories getting out?
Well, they have their ways, and they're very slick about it. Take a regular traffic jam, right? You got a regular traffic jam. You see a couple of reservist vehicles out there, but you also see tractor trailers. But you're wondering why these military vehicles are in the front and aft of these tractor trailers. Now, the average person will not pay attention until they begin to deviate from the highway, and someone just happens to follow them, and then these same vehicles get air support. And then a horn goes off that says, everybody back off, and this, that, and the other, and it's always at nighttime. These convoys are very specific how they travel. Lots of people are hearing helicopters at night. That's air cover. That is air cover. And it's very hard to see a vehicle that runs in what's called blackout with no light shining. It's a dull gray, which makes it almost invisible at nighttime because it gives off no light reflection. And they could pass right by your house, and all you would hear is a motor, possibly, and you wouldn't take notice. But some people are taking notice, those people who are hunting, and sometimes they step in the wrong place. They actually find it, and they are being detained. Now, Doug, you know this, that anytime you take a picture of something that supposedly affects national defense, then they can, in fact, confiscate that. To enforce that, DHS has been very active.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. No, you know what? I agree with you on this. And I see where you're headed with this, and I'm intrigued by the different scenarios you painted, including the one that's out of our hands and the 5 or so that aren't. So you're talking about manufactured crises, and then of course your manufactured events, perhaps more accurately, and then an event that is out of the control of those involved in this mass operation. But my question is, at the end of all this, what are we looking at here? I'm looking for, more specifics if I can, without compromising. Without compromise. Look, I understand you're pointing us.
You can follow. You can actually listen. Here's a tactic that's very old. The more secrecy that's needed, the more distractions the public needs to see. To hide
repeat
a
that.
secret,
Wait a minute, Michael. Repeat that sentence for me again, please.
Well, the more secret, the more you need to keep something secret,
right?
The more the public needs to be engaged in other things. Okay, they really have to be engaged in other things. You will see an escalation. You'll certainly see an escalation. Now, prior on the radio, I told you guys about possibly a 2-week freeze. Nothing happening. in a 2-week time frame. That was my estimation, a 2-week time frame. Before, because there are always rest periods. And what happens when you get a rest period, people begin to drop their guard. Their momentum begins to leave. They forget about subjects that they talked about 2 weeks ago. Then, legal matters always seem to rise at the same exact time after a crisis, every single time. With the legal matters, the public is engaged. The mindset, the collective mindset of the nation has been changed. And of course, stories that were previously had gained momentum, they begin to lose momentum. They lose momentum because everybody's mind is put into question. Then it strikes again. But they will increase. And this is something, I don't know if anybody's noticed or not. Every time they put a story out, every time something is made known, it changes the way you believe things. It really does. You can put out a story that can increase someone's faith in a subject or totally obliterate their faith in a subject and make them forget about the subject, lose interest. Now, when it comes from official channels, that's when you need to worry, you need to question. You need to really say, okay, is this that serious that it needs to be put out there? Take this, for instance, a big one. Let's give a scenario. We lose soldiers every day, right? Every single day we lose soldiers. But,
correct.
If you take a person at the end of this road and you lie about how that person died, a soldier or anybody else, you lie about it. And some other official says, you know what, I think they lied. What does it do? What does it do? It creates a scenario in which people become engaged, and they're going to pick a side, and they're going to forget about everything else and involve themselves in a story that can be defined by its beginning. You see?
Yes.
Total, absolute engagement. Total. And believe me, this is a science. This is a science that they have all but perfected towards the public. And it works. In every single case I'm aware of, it works. And it works effectively. Because it has drawn the attention of so many. SEAL Team 6 is another one. You know what made SEAL Team 6? You know what began its momentum? It's not because they went to go get Osama bin Laden. It was the helicopter. Why throw the drama in there? Any serviceman knows that if you lose equipment or something like that, it's never thrown out in the open. Certainly not on a special operations team. No one throws that in the open.
Okay, well, let's stop right there for a second, because this is something I can, and I'm sure the audience can relate to as well. You have members of SEAL Team 6 piled into a helicopter. That helicopter, obviously, embedded with other troops, but there's obviously something goes horribly wrong. Whether it came from within somewhere, whether it was from somebody within that group of people or in a support position or whatever, we lost a whole lot of not only precious souls and precious people, but a whole lot of investment. I mean, okay, so it made, to me, it made absolutely no sense why they traveled together. I mean, heck, president and vice president don't travel together in the same vehicle. They don't ride the same elevators, of course. You know, and you're having
Standard operating procedure is broken.
Exactly.
Yes.
So what are you telling me about, or what are you telling us, the audience? What are you telling us about SEAL Team 6 here?
Well, Doug, some stories. You know what? Normally, your first instinct is right. In most cases, it's right. You just have nothing to prove it with, no one to discuss it with, because it takes a long time for people to come around and understand where you're coming from. By the time they come around, the story is mixed. The facts are mixed. remember, it only takes one official to say, you know what, that part wasn't true, but they always have to give you something else. They'll say this part was true. And then they use the infamous insider, the whistleblower. I can tell you right now, in this day and age, do not trust whistleblowers. Whistleblowers have been threatened and are normally always threatened, intimidated to come forward. But when you have one in free operation that can come forward, and they began to consume publicity, it creates a sense of realism to the story. The diversion is then effective. And when you certainly don't see a body, and all this is, I'm just giving you a scenario out there. It could be real, it could be fantasy. But if you're not shown a body, if you're not shown a body, they certainly show Gaddafi's body, right?
Oh, yeah.
But if you're not shown a body, but you're shown a downed helicopter.
Oh, okay.
Special operations project, right?
Yeah, okay.
Why would they do that unless they wanted to win sympathy? They wanted to play on the emotional instincts of a human being. They play the sympathy card. The public feeds in unknowingly, which creates a sense, a mindset, a collective mindset to support America. And it put this puzzle together. We have stories that support America. We have stories that take America apart. Then we have another story that is to support America. We all know terrorism brings America together, right? Any terrorist act will bring America together. It just so happens that lately it didn't quite go that way. So we had to begin to criminalize people within the United States. And isn't it amazing of the events that happened after the terrorist act? The publicized court proceedings, the timing of things, they're too convenient. They're too convenient.
Yes, they are.
Why the sudden influx of anything to play on the emotions of America? And I'm telling you, it's working.
And
what's going on is working. Everyone is engaged because if people get upset about a story, right, if they get upset and they want to know more, their plan has worked. And I'm telling you to place that in check, because if it's publicized for too long and people are absolutely engaged in this story, chances are everybody missed the beginning, and it's about to be sanitized where nobody can get to it. And then it's gone, but you're already engaged. So they take that to a level they want to take it at, and you're going to play your role.
Very interesting, Michael. I do want to ask you a question, and you can answer this or not, but just based on your opinion, have they completed their mission of diversion, or is it, like some report it to be, gotten so bad that they might need another incident to divert from this?
You're talking about the emotional state of the country right now?
Yes, especially with the Benghazi situation. Some people say it's gotten too exposed to the point where it could be, you might need to see another attack because we need to get the people's focus off of this, because it showed and exposed too much, was some people were reporting as a possibility.
Okay. Let me let you look at it totally different perspective. What if, first of all, the story ends up proven the opposite way? In other words, it was absolutely proven that it was, in fact, simply a misjudgment, period. No fallacies involved. Okay? Let's just play that scenario card right now. If that happens, the momentum, the support system will begin to shift to the other side. Let's say the plaintiffs. It'll shift to the plaintiffs. It'll shift to the ones who are being blamed. They will gather the support saying, we did not fight like they did. They pointed fingers at us, and we turned out right. Now, you see how they are? That's called villainizing people on a global scale. Because you got to remember, not only America is involved with our media, and this is something people forget. Every country watches our media. Every single country. And this is why stories are formulated the way they are. If you notice in stories, certainly the Benghazi story, there are other factions involved. They're very careful when they mention other countries and the motive behind what happens. You already know they're stalling. They're trying to perpetuate this story. If you listen to the hearings, there's not new things. They're not new things. They're just presented in a different light. But they're certainly not new. Some insiders know this. They know certain things that take place. The public will never know what actually took place because things have been sanitized. And like I told you before, when something is classified above someone else's security classification, it will not be discussed. It's a lost piece of evidence that will never be retrieved. There's no way they can get it, but they don't possess the clearance to obtain it.
I fully understand that.
That's a loss.
Which is why, by the way, we need a broader spectrum hearing for Benghazi. But that's aside from the point that you were trying to make. So I'll let you continue.
Well, I want to say that all stories have a beginning. I would encourage people to maybe go back a couple years to investigate the individual. That's all. Follow a track. See what he was involved with.
You're the second person that has said that tonight. One in email, one you
probably
just
set my dad's agenda for the weekend of what he's going to do.
Oh, my agenda's already been set.
There's a rule of thumb: never look at the story at hand, but look at the elements prior to the story. There's no real proof in the story because the lies are. Once the lies begin, they're overlaid and overlaid and overlaid. And there's no way to
the lie is different. The lie is different at every level, and this is one thing too. And Michael, when North Korea flared up, all eyes were on the Korean Peninsula. Well, that gave the ability of people to cause mischief elsewhere, did it not? So this is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very much.
And look at the timing. Look at the timing.
Right.
Look at the circumstance, and look at the reaction from the country. Now, I told you before, every single reaction from the country is gauged. When something happens, the first thing people do is tweet about it, Facebook it, email about it, chat about it. All this information is being gauged. 2 days ago, something was activated that can effectively engage all conversations simultaneously and thinks a lot like we do. That's a hint. In fact, it thinks just like we do. That's a hint.
So you're talking about,
but it thinks.
I mean, the hint tells me artificial intelligence on a network level, basically.
Well, I go so far as to say not artificial intelligence, actual intelligence.
Oh, okay. Well,
let's say a combined system, both living and not living. Yeah, let's just say that.
That's pretty interesting.
Let's say a biblical term for this, an abomination. How about that? Let's just say an abomination. Right. An abomination was activated 2 days ago. As a result of that abomination, you're going to see fallout from it. You're going to see fallout. Because just think, Doug, if you had a thinking computer that accessed and assisted all search engines, every single communication on the Internet, it could analyze. Just think if you yourself could do that and process the information, and it was not straining to you, but you could, in fact, hear everything and see everything, what would you do? What would you do? Given the side you take, what would you do?
I'd go
you
for
would have all the information you ever wanted to know.
Liquor cabinet. Seriously.
You have all the information you ever wanted to know. You would know the truth, conversations, the theories, you would know everything you needed to know. It would change your tactics and everything.
Well, right. I mean, as it was explained to me by a friend I respect, in jiu-jitsu, you use the energy of the attacker to your advantage. So you've got this energy that's being processed, that's going one direction. Yeah, certainly I would use it to my advantage to advance my agendas. Is that the answer you're looking for?
Yes, and in MIT back in the 80s, they made a computer chip that had rat brain cells on it. This computer chip turned out to be very powerful, and it grew. That was back in the 80s. Imagine what they could build now. Just imagine.
Oh, I have no doubt that that the things out there are well beyond anything we can imagine right now.
They are, and they're hidden in plain sight as far as certain publications and laws are concerned.
Yes. A conscious machine that can see everything everybody does from here on out. Now, that would be a twist.
Yeah, it would be.
And it kind of reminds you of the beast, doesn't it?
Of course.
Certainly a part of it.
Well, the beast system, or a cog within a cog of the wheel of the beast system. But you now, I think for the third time you said 2 days ago, so that's a very specific reference to I'll say May 8th, 2013. Am I correct in that assessment?
Yeah.
All right.
At 10 p.m.
PM. Eastern? Greenwich? Greenwich meantime, what?
That was Eastern time.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So,
most things in the Midwest use Eastern. They will go off the switch clock, which is Eastern time.
Okay.
Any computer mainframes that go online within the United States, servers certainly are rooted on the East Coast, so they use the EST time base. Yeah.
It's interesting because this does a little bit of what you're saying sounds somewhat familiar with information I recently received. Somewhat. So with that, I will say, wow, that's interesting.
And people and listeners find it kind of cryptic the way we're discussing this, but there is a reason behind this. We are supposed to have a level of discernment and a level of understanding and a level of motivation to do this work, to look these things out that are important, what the Lord leads us to look out. And some are led to do, in all different areas. But what I see important from this is that, from what you're saying, is no matter what takes place, these people in control already have a model or an idea that this was going to happen. The Hegelian dialect, almost, the problem, reaction, solution. They can foresee the problem, therefore they can create the solution.
They create the problem, they create the solution, and they create the problem, or at least allow them to exacerbate the problem.
Even foresee what could be a problem to create that problem.
Yeah.
But they already have the solution.
I will add that the model is in progress. In other words, the live model is in progress. The plan is in progress. There's not a plan that's coming. There's a plan in progress. As I stated before, things have certainly been sped up. Things have been sped up.
And you're talking literally, too. When you say things have sped up, when I say plans, I'm talking time as well. And I know that might sound like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs here. But is that a reasonable statement? The time as well as man is measuring it has sped up as well.
Well, Doug, I'll tell you this: every single planet in our solar system is expanding.
Very much so. Yes.
Now, every single planet. If you had a big basketball and its center was rotating 30 times per second, the further out you go, right, it's going to cause a lot of forces. The forces at the edges of the surface of that basketball, they're spinning 30 times a second in the center, which is relatively slow. It's like spinning a top. You can put your finger in the center of something spinning, but you cannot put your finger on the outside because there's too much force involved. As objects expand, the outer surface generates more forces. Consequently, it can also speed up the item, especially when it has a type of internal rotation that's driving the whole machine. So yes, it's speeding up, literally, the sun expansion by, 700K, 1,000 miles? That's not so big, is it? The radiation factor, which was normally seated at a measurement of 4 for the last, 200 years, is now at 16. Something could be wrong with that. At 16, that will burn you right through your shirt. The UV will go right through your shirt. So I would also guesstimate there will be a lot of skin cancer cases after this summer. Anyway, in saying that, there are quite a few things happening in the universe. I'm sure Sandale, through Naval Intelligence Services, it kind of makes you wonder why naval intelligence is studying atmospheric things, but anyway, through Navy Research Labs in particular, and Naval Intelligence Services, and Air Force Command, he'll get some pretty good information about the expansion of the planet. And you know what? This picture of Saturn where everybody marveled over the storm,
Yes.
that confused me. Here's what confused me. Not the storm, but how clear that picture was. But everybody should know how far Saturn is out there.
But wait, we've got news helicopters using their news cameras being able to see the rings of Saturn.
And you have to ask yourself why. And why can we see so far, yet we can see nothing? Because they don't publish anything. That posed the question to internal people. Actually, it was a laughing matter. Because to be honest with you, a lot of higher authoritative personnel think civilians are stupid. They really think that civilians follow whatever plan they put before them. They laugh at news articles that the news is governed or functional only by way of FCC. If FCC pulls the plug, they're not transmitting. Everything is going through a central hub now. They can pull the plug when they want. So,
right.
That's why radio shows like yours, Doug, is listed. It's actually listed. However, they can't touch it because you've done something that I don't think you know about. They really can't touch it. It's all some discouragement, which is what it's called, discouragement. A little DNS hopping that confuse a internet host provider. But that was discouragement.
Okay. And I laugh because I know I know what you're referring to. But okay, all right. All right.
But you see, this thing goes pretty deep. But it's always a small, subtle thing. The beginning of things that you track to find out the result.
Right.
There's no way we can look at Benghazi and really get the facts. We can hint all day. We can try and put information together, but you know in your gut some things don't fit. But if you look at the beginning to see the motive, then everything you learned is made clear. Without a motive, you're simply gathering information. You can come up with 50,000 models. But with the motive, it makes all that information worthy of having it. It will allow it to make sense.
Michael, I talked about the motive back in 2008 when Obama got in. The motive is to go against the nation state of Israel, and to do that, of course, how best to do that. Just imagine the missiles that were struck last weekend by Israel that were taken out, destined for Hezbollah. Well, my comment to that is, imagine with a NATO air cap or with a U.S. intervention and NATO intervention. Their inability to do that, and of course, how best to go against Israel. Ultimately, here, I think, if you take it back to the very nature, it's I don't even know how to describe it, but I mean, it's ultimately it's looking at the. It does focus around Israel, Jerusalem, and the holy city of Jerusalem, and that's where it's heading right now.
And
Your motive
and I
looks good. It looks good.
yeah,
That
and I
sounds
would
very
ask
good.
why.
What do you mean why? It's written in the okay, yeah,
There you
Michael,
go.
why?
You
Well,
answered it.
it's written in the Bible. I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, I understand that. And I think people all because what was Benghazi all about? What was Libya all about? What's Arab Spring all about? Or really globalist spring all about? It's the movement of the chess pieces to the ultimate end game scenario. And what we're seeing right now is a case for all the marbles. And what are all the marbles? Well, it's this global realignment of power, redistribution of wealth, and this enslavement of an entire population that's left over after this whatever depopulation event's going to take place. Does that summarize it pretty well?
That sounds that's a good model. I like that model.
Okay.
I like good models. And again, Jerusalem is a key player. I did want to state this. If you knew a person you didn't like, and you had all the power in the world, how would you get rid of this person? How would you let this person get rid of himself? How would you do that? If you had all the power in the world, you wanted to get rid of somebody, but you wanted them to hang themselves, how would you do that?
Well, obviously, there's the old saying: "Give a person enough rope, they're going to hang themselves." If they are engaged in deceit, lies, and sins of commission and omission, but give them everything that they want. That's
Okay, you
how.
said it. The rope is the authority. I can't say too much, but the rope is the authority to do what they want. To do what they want. The rope is the green light to do what you want. Let them do what they want, and the heart of a person will be exposed. And in in the ending of it, if the person is continually saying that they need this protected, that protected, we need to act now, if you give that person the authority, they will, in the end, corrupt themselves, and you don't have to do a thing. This is also playing out right now. This is playing out.
Right, and I agree with you, but a lot of people cannot see that larger perspective. Among the like I mentioned in one of my articles, Jackson Pollock painting, you can't see
Level of evil.
the Jack the Dripper, as I like to call him. You really can't see all of the dots for all of the paint there is on the canvas, but no, you're right. We are looking at really in my view, a three-dimensional chess game here, where there are different levels of evil, different levels of spiritual warfare going on, as well as warfare on Earth going on. So, wow, fascinating conversation. Fascinating conversation. We blew by the way, folks, the first hour, and I know I've gotten some messages from these stations from the West. Our apologies. That said, give us your final thoughts, Michael. Leave us with something we can chew on over the weekend here.
Well, aside from current events, I would absolutely encourage everyone to, again, step back, but this time begin to notice these small, subtle things that you see and watch the alliance that's being forged. That is your marker for the rest of it. Oh, and Doug, speaking of giving rope, did we not just give Israel the permission to do what they wanted to do?
Well, one can argue that. But with that rope comes strings.
Well, those strings, let's see. Normally when strings are attached as they are now, they will likely all strings are severed in the middle of a game. So when those strings are severed, the one who authorized that power is free to either dissipate or be absorbed into something else. I will leave you with that thought.
Interesting.
But to not be, people shouldn't be emotionally compromised. They shouldn't put too much emotion into things that are going on right now because they, I promise you, they will lose focus. Having defined the word fight, which is to educate, which is to make known those secret things that you can, but for the purpose of another's education, that is fighting. The enemy fights with knowledge and secrets. You fight with knowledge and exposing secrets so that people understand the world they live in. Then they may see, I have to make changes in my life. The only way we came to make changes in our own lives was being pressed to the wall. We actually saw something against it. People who don't change don't see anything against them. They see everything for them. And if you're educated, it's our responsibility to let them know the real world they live in as tactfully as we can.
Interesting. I have a feeling that we're about to witness events that will lead to the not only the realignment of nations, the realignment of agreements, of arrangements, of whatever, but also the death of millions.
Uncharted territory we're in. That's not in hyping up or trying to, make this sound worse than it is. I mean, we are in a time period unlike any other right now.
I do believe that. And Michael, you've been an interesting caller turned guest. Actually, it's you've actually been elevated to guest status here, based on based on your information. I would urge everyone to consider what you said, and also I certainly would urge you to call back in with or keep in touch and be one of our advisors, if you will, with respect to what's taking place. Because even though you may have been forced to talk in, I don't want to say riddles, but even though you're tied with respect to what you can say and what you can't say, I think you've said a lot, and I think if people have. I think if people, those with ears, if they listen to you,
I'll do my best to educate.
You've painted an interesting picture, and I think we're looking at a bigger picture than most people can actually comprehend at this point.
Okay.
All right, my friend.
Well, that being said, it was a joy. And
it was a joy on our end, too.
I will update as much as I'm able.
All right, my friend. I want to say God bless you. Thank you for spending the time with us tonight on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, and thank
Always
you
a
for always a pleasure. And thank you for your gift of time, your gift of knowledge to us. Gives us some things definitely to think about, well beyond the normal paradigm of our mental where we are mentally. So, God bless you, my friend. You stay safe out there.
God bless you too.
All right. Folks, that was a gentleman named Michael. He's a friend of the program. He has he occupies a position that we can't talk about, and has information that others are not privy to. And although you may think, "What did I just hear?" And if you think that, what did I just hear? Go back and listen again.
Yep. You're going to have to go back and listen again. I'm going to have to go back and listen again, as it is important, because the information that he gave is very important. I mean, we could take away anything, even without any facts about Benghazi, any of this stuff, just the practical information, that is needed for our spirit and our ability to understand things in a way that they are laying it out. Like you say, you don't want to know the enemy. You want to know their plans. And we think we do. But I don't think we really do.
Well,
we know what the agenda is, the end goal is, but the mechanisms of getting there are a lot different than I think we even can comprehend.
And I think that more people of my generation who grew up watching the old black and white 30-minute Twilight.
Listening? Oh.
No, don't start, because No, but folks, if you grew up during the generation where you watched the old Twilight Zone episodes, the original, with Rod Serling and the 30-minute episodes, some of those really got you thinking. Of course, when the more infamous ones, To Serve Man and such, in the context of the time period that they were presented. Now we are 50 years hence, and we are in a different multicolored Twilight Zone, where the same 30 minutes are, for example, 30-minute Twilight Zone episodes would be now, instead of having one plot twist, there are multiple plot twists here, and we have to keep our eyes on the fact that the deception is everywhere. It's everywhere, folks. The deception is at every level. By the way, I just want to say this about Benghazi. Hey, Geraldo. Hey, welcome to the party, pal. You see,
no, don't say that, because I remember. I don't know what he's saying now, but he did a little piece on the Building 7 and seemed to be very intrigued by it and didn't understand. Remember, he had a family.
And then what happened? Then he
never mentioned it again.
Well, now he's saying that my sources say Benghazi was about running weapons into Syria. Again, hey, Geraldo, welcome to the party. I just wanted to say that if you look through the headlines, you'll
it's
find
easy
that.
to be critical of people. I mean, but we're talking about a journalist here, an alleged journalist.
No, you're not talking about a journalist. Yeah, well,
and I know we all learn at different stages, but as him with his status as a reporter,
with his cult following,
he didn't just come to this realization, or, in my opinion, a lot of these people, these talking heads, who make the news or pop up on these headlines for what they say. I mean, who chooses to put certain people? A lot of people say stuff every day. But I mean, it seems more placed than natural.
So what you're saying is this was timed.
He couldn't understand and comprehend it until after it took the hearings, which revealed nothing more really or anything extra than hadn't been reported already.
Well, okay. I'll give you that. I don't know where
he works for a major news network, so this things that they were reporting on before also.
But if, for example, if Cheryl Atkinson from CBS, or I think it is CBS, Cheryl Atkinson, the reporter that went after the information, went after the sources about Benghazi, if she can do this and find that there's something woefully wrong in the fact that, this is about a weapons shipment to Syria, and if others can find out the same thing with no resources, Geraldo Rivera certainly has the contacts, has the resources, has the doors that can be opened for him, as opposed to us having to claw through the same doors that he has opened for him. Come on. I mean, do your job. If this was in 1972 or 1971, or 1972 to be exact, with Watergate, for crying out loud, you'd be clawing through the same doors. Or the door. I guess what I'm saying is everyone has got to play their position, do their part, do the investigation, do the reporting, be a responsible person. If you are an investigative journalist, be an investigative journalist. Find out what the real story is. To those agencies, news agencies, and news reporters that entered this illustrious chamber,
either be an individual or quit.
Well, right. Don't answer to an agenda. I mean, for example, what do investigators do? What do? They search for the truth. Who are they responsible to? Well, they're responsible to the truth. Period. I mean, as an investigator, I don't care.
Truth and the Lord. I mean, we
Right.
all answer to the Lord, whether you believe in Him or not. That's
But does
not
not go hand
the
in hand.
case.
I mean, look. Doesn't that go hand in hand? Doesn't the truth and God go hand in hand?
No, not in today's age, and that's my point with Benghazi. That was what I was trying to get at in the first hour, because this knowledge, increase in knowledge we have through the technology.
All right.
Look
Well,
how many people it has. Look at the New Age movement, how it has flourished under these internet age.
that's true. And speaking of this new age, I do want to say this. Next week we're going to have a show on Agenda 21. Speaking of new age, and I people saying, well, that's kind of a non sequitur. You know, where's the segue there? Well, of course, there is there's a lot to be said about how Agenda 21 is affecting you, every family in the world, basically, every family in America and in North America, to be sure, but the United Nations ties to the implementation of this Agenda 21, who's behind it, who's benefiting, who's making the money, and what that is all about. But I also have to say this, because we forego the break at the top of the hour. I want to thank our sponsors, Freeze Dry Guy. If for all of your long-term food storage needs, contact the Freeze Dry Guy. As a matter of fact, I did talk with the Freeze Dry Guy here this week. He has a special on freeze-dried pineapple, number 10 cans for sale. If you love pineapple as much as I do, you're going to love his, because he's excited. I'm going to tell you what you laughing at.
Oh, it's just like he has some kind
come
of
on
special magical pineapples. That,
I'm telling you, I got a sample.
I love pineapples, so you're gonna have to give me some, and I'll taste them, and
I got a sample.
give the audience my opinion. And
you know
I
what,
bet they're
folks?
delicious.
Yeah, I got a sample. The pineapple is stored in the heavy duty number 10 cans, and they've got a shelf life of 25 years, but it's freeze dried, so a little goes a long way. So if you eat them, eat the pieces of pineapple like I do, the stuff you buy in bulk at the grocery store. You know what I'm talking about, the dried fruits.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that, because this stuff here is the real thing. And so if you eat like a handful, it's like eating 6 pineapples. Okay, whereas in the store, the freeze dried fruits, if you eat the piece of pineapple, they're just kind of freeze dried. This stuff is great. But anyway, suggested retail price $184.50 for listeners of our program, $169.50. That'll go a long way, and that special is through May 31st. But you got to mention Doug and Joe Hagmann. Also, I want to mention, too, our great sponsors at Grandland Firearms. That's grandlandfirearms.com. Go to homelandsecurityus.com. Click on the link to Grandland Firearms. All hunting, survival, weapons needs, even for those of us here in the U.S. You can, and plus great T-shirts, great hat, and a great book, Treed by the River, written by Carl Granlund. Carl, I want to tell you, if you're listening to, I got your emails, interesting things you said. I'm mulling a couple of things over. Let me just say that. So anyway, there are two sponsors.
Mr. Granlund, I love the T-shirt.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, it's worth every penny. And one last thing, two last announcements here. Don't forget, folks, if you're in the Raleigh area, North Carolina area, there's a little town called Apex, June 7th, 8th, and 9th. Joe and I are going to be there along with Susan Price. Susan Price is the keynote speaker, talking about Aaron, her fallen son in Afghanistan. If you want a microcosm of what happened in Benghazi, if you want a microcosm of Fast and Furious, if you want to know about the drug running from Afghanistan, compliments of our military, Susan's going to tell you, and we're going to be there as well, talking as well. So if you want to meet us there, hey, we'll have a cup of coffee together, have lunch. It'll be great to put faces with the handles, with the names, with the people. And that is June 7th, 8th, and 9th. At least we will be there on the 8th and 9th for sure. So the 7th is we're still trying to work that out as well. But for information, go to HomelandSecurityUS.com or PriceForJustice.com. But HomelandSecurityUS.com, click on the Square Seminar National Insecurity banner, and that'll take you to a full page readout of what the schedule is for the weekend. That said, Joe, I'm going to toss it back to you as you're busy over there typing. It's just
you're going to toss it back to. I don't know what to say. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I got to tell you,
news we did not cover.
This has been a frantic, kind of a free-for-all type of a Friday show.
And you did not get much sleep last night. I did not get much sleep last night. When we do not get sleep, I don't know if this runs in our family. We kind of get loopy, weird. And it's been an interesting night, and it's been a weird night.
I can see loopy in my rearview mirror, but you know what? Look, tomorrow night, David Langford at 9:00, and that's going to be a tremendous program. And of course, Tuesday at 9.
As always, it is, yeah.
With the Guerrilla Economist V Tuesday.
All right.
But yeah, let me toss it back to you, and you take it for the stories that we did not cover during this time, or whatever we need to do whatever lights are. What the heck's that red light over there? Never mind.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of stories we did not get to cover, and we're going to do that right now. First of all, we're going to hit some news of the Earth and the sky and what is happening. We have reports here, this out of CBS Boston. Military aircraft frightens Quincy residents. A mystery in Quincy continues to deepen. Who is flying around the city from dusk till dawn for the past 10 days or so? It's frightening. Not just weird, but frightening, said one resident of the Wollaston section. Every night for the last 2 weeks, residents have spotted low-flying aircraft doing loops over the city. WBZ has learned the FAA knows what's going on, but won't tell. I mean, it's strange. I don't know.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but you had told me the FAA's reactions, Joe.
Yep,
I found them to be extremely disconcerting. But go ahead.
The one resident told the news agency WBZ that they say, I mean, it's strange. I don't know if we're looking for somebody. I have no idea. If they're looking for somebody, I have no idea. It's not the state or local police doing the flying. The FAA is giving out little information even to city officials. It's frustrating. It really is, says City Councilor Brian Palmucci. I specifically asked, is it a law enforcement flight? Can we tell the people that? He said, no, you can't.
You've got something flying over Quincy, Massachusetts. We don't know what it is. The FAA is saying, well, we can't tell you what it is. Is it harmful? Is it military? Is it ABC? We don't know.
So they asked if it was law enforcement related. Yeah, they asked if it was law enforcement related. He said no. Then he asked this. Can I at least tell them it is not dangerous? There's not something they should worry about. He said, I cannot tell you that. The aircraft does not appear to be flying when it is cloudy out, only taking to the skies in the starlight nights. This according to this article. So, I'll post this in the chat room. We have this strange
so no
thing,
one's talking.
But no. This is not just happening in Quincy. I have seen some of the strangest movements of objects in the sky in the last week, more so than ever before. And
I've got 3 emails
I ended the week
here I printed. Joe, that's all right. I got 3 emails I printed. One from the southwestern portion of the United States, one from the middle part of the United States, and one from the Miami-Dade area, so all saying basically the same thing, that they're seeing at night lighted aircraft, what appear to be lighted aircraft, describing the aircraft as small. The sounds, of course, from the 3 reports vary, but no one is talking, no one is saying what they're doing.
And I would urge everybody, if you have the time, if you can, it is, at least for me, very relaxing to sit out in the night sky. Spend if you can, 1 hour every week, 1 hour 3 times a week if you have the chance, outside in the dark. You will be amazed at what is going on in the night sky. And for those of you who like to, who know about Stellarium, it is a software program on the computer that will tell you where stars are supposed to be at any time. You can get applications on your phone to tell you if it's satellites traveling over you or the International Space Station, and pretty much determine if these things are supposed to be there or not, based on what NASA says is in the air at that point in time, and etc. But there is things going on in the sky that are unexplainable, and they are increasing. That much I know for a fact, as I've seen it with my own eyes. Not only have I seen it now, my wife has started to watch with me, and she is amazed at what she's seeing. Also, tornado activity in the United States has hit a 60-year low. Now, you guys remember the last 2 years of the tornado seasons. They were on the Weather Channel's list of billion-dollar disasters both years. But in the USA in the past 12 months, they have seen the fewest number of tornadoes since at least 1954. And the death tolls from the dangerous storms have dropped dramatically since 2011. Just 2 years after a ferocious series of tornado outbreaks killed hundreds of Americans, the USA has, so far this year, is enjoying one of the calmest years on record for twisters. Though
is this weather modification? Is this something else?
I was thinking a calm before the storm, but I don't know. That's just my theory. And switching topics from the tornado and weather aspect to the bees. You guys know about the bees and the disappearance of the bees, and there's movies about it. Where have the bees gone? Where did the bees go?
This is something we've been hearing now for the last couple of years. The honeybee population has been affected. It seems like they're
calling it Beemageddon.
All right. Oh, what's
Albert
going on
Einstein
with this?
once said, if the bees were ever to be taken off the earth, I think 3 years, he gave the earth to be able to produce plants. And
all right.
Okay. Well, this is audio from Russia Today. The resident Beemageddon could spell disaster for the U.S. And just the headline alone made me ask, well, this isn't happening all across the world. It's only happening in the U.S. What's the significance of that? But we'll play the audio. Hopefully it plays all the way through. Here it is.
I don't know about you folks. We can certainly do without the music.
Can you sing until they come on?
I could, but it just wouldn't be good. But
according to a new
the Hagmann and Hagmann
Department of Agriculture,
there we go.
America has a bee problem. Our honeybees are dying by the millions, with annual death rates of about 30%. Some beekeepers are reporting losses as high as 90%. And that's a very bad thing, because we actually need those bees. Honeybees pollinate crops that are worth more than $200 billion a year, which helps feed the economy and, people. Honeybees pollinate apple, zucchini, avocado, plum, and almond crops, among others. According to the USDA report, the survivorship is too low right now for the U.S. to meet the pollination demands. So the question is, why are all the honeybees dying? The report is inconclusive, but cites possible factors, including pesticide exposure, which is sure to come as no surprise to the European Commission, who is already on track to banning neonicotinoids, a class of insecticides chemically related to nicotine. But U.S. officials say they don't have enough evidence that neonicotinoids are killing our bees, so they aren't going to ban them. I guess they haven't read the American Bird Conservancy Review that came out in March. They reviewed 200 studies on neonicotinoids. Their report found that a single corn kernel coated with a neonicotinoid can kill a very small bird. And I guess they didn't read the research published last year in some of the world's most prestigious journals, which demonstrated incontrovertible, overwhelming evidence linking neonicotinoids to the death of large numbers of honeybees. And I guess they didn't hear about the coalition of beekeepers and agriculture advocates who just sued the EPA over inadequate toxicity evaluations. Or maybe they do know all about the evidence and just don't want to ban the pesticides anyway. You see, the neonicotinoids named in the lawsuit are manufactured by Bayer and Syngenta. Bayer has 32 lobbyists in Washington alone, and 14 of them previously held government jobs. And 16 out of Syngenta's 28 lobbyists held government jobs too. Combined, they spent over $7 million buying politicians in Washington last year. So guess what, honeybees, farmers, and people who like almonds and lots of fresh fruit? Chances are neonicotinoids aren't going anywhere anytime soon. At least not in America. Chances are you could be screwed, and we could all be facing a beemageddon sometime very soon. Tonight, let's talk about that by following me on Twitter at The Resident.
All right, guys. That was the Beemageddon clip from Russia Today, and
Too many bees are lighting up, apparently. But seriously, no, we've got a bee problem.
this is a big danger to our agriculture. We only got a few minutes left. Moving on. IRS is apologizing for targeting conservatives in the Tea Party group. The IRS, Internal Revenue Service, apologized Friday for what it acknowledged was inappropriate targeting of conservative political groups during the 2012 election to see if they were violating tax-exempt statuses.
This is nothing new, folks. This has been going on ever since the IRS was established in 1917, just for your knowledge.
No, what's surprising here is that they're apologizing, especially so fast after the fact. Anyway,
Well,
IRS agents singled out dozens of organizations for additional reviews because they included the words Tea Party or Patriot in their exemption applications, said Louis Lerner, who heads the IRS division that oversees tax-exempt groups. In some cases, groups were asked for a list of donors, which violates IRS policy in most cases. I have a 3.5-minute clip of Jay Sekulow addressing this issue that we're not going to play tonight because we don't have enough time. But this goes to show you the targeting of those in opposition or with oppositional beliefs or views.
It's really an attack on conservatism and an attack on Christianity. You see, it's a veiled attack on Christianity. At the heart of it lies the Christian nugget of Christian belief system. It's not you notice they're not targeting the progressives; they're targeting conservatives. This has always been the case as long as the IRS has been in power, and it's been used on both sides, both aisles, if you will, both political ideologies, but with vigor against Christian conservative causes.
And
that's what people don't understand. Go ahead.
At the behest of my father, I need to address this issue because
for clarification.
Yeah, and you do make a good point. New listeners, people coming in, they might not understand the where I'm coming from. We got an email. Somebody said they're a bit confused on my position. They've heard me say more than one time, bringing things to the light doesn't matter.
Val, this is for you. We're just going to give the first name. Just give the listeners some background. During the show, Val sent an email, and title was confused.
Yeah, she's saying that I said that bringing things to the light doesn't matter, and that you worked hard on so many of these articles, getting the information on Benghazi. She says she thinks the truth does matter, and I think the family members of these men would also think so. Well, I do agree with that, Valerie. So I am confused as to why the negative attitude, and lately have been wondering why, if he feels this way, he is doing the show. I am writing this at a time when a lot of information seems to be coming out for once. I just don't understand where Joe is coming from. And she says, I also know scriptures and realize things are going to happen that we have no control over. That does not mean you stop trying to get the truth out there.
Now before you answer that question, let me just say this to the listeners. I just want to say this. Joe and I have this dinner table conversation quite frequently, and I know there's a lot of misperception out there. So let me just say, Val, I appreciate your question, and thank you for the recognition about working hard in terms of trying to get to the truth of matters. Having said that,
yeah, and
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry
Go ahead.
if I'm not clear or understandable when I'm speaking about this, because it is very important. I do not advocate giving up or laying down. I definitely support, and I'm proud of my dad and wish I could write like him and put together stories the way he does. It is important to expose the darkness wherever it is. My point was, it is not the beginning and end all. My point was, Benghazi is not, in my opinion, going to change anything as far as the way things are done, the agenda that is taking place and currently being implemented a bit. It is good to bring to light the crimes committed by these people, because it does show and continue to show. And if you were going to do this as a detective building a file or a case against somebody, you need a body of evidence. You need all that information to present to a jury to show the guilt. And this is part of doing so. And it's a very important part. My point was Scripture and the Lord's will, making sure we are doing the Lord's will rather than our own. We might get mad at these people. We might want to, take offensive action. We might want to do whatever. But the fact of the matter is, the word of the Lord says we need to love our enemies. I'm not saying we give them a pass to commit evil. I'm saying we listen to the Lord for the discernment. I hope that clears things up, because I will never lay down, but I will never also offensively, physically fight. I will survive. And some
when
people
you say
say
offensive, no, wait a second. Now you're opening an entirely different can of worms.
Offensively, physically fight. If there is, like, how Nathan Leal talked about the people marching,
right.
I won't be one of those people marching to go have a shootout. Okay?
However,
it will be avoided at all cost, unless it cannot be avoided.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people will say, well, if somebody comes in your house to rape your wife, you telling me you're not going to fight?
I will fight to my death to protect my wife.
There you go. And
myself, that's a different story.
Okay, a lot of people don't understand. They picture, and this is not talking about you, Val. I know where you're coming from, because we have these dinner table discussions all the time, and this is why these discussions are so important, because this is what's happening in families across the nation, and in Canada and other countries.
Yes, and I would ask any listeners who, and Val, thank you for sharing this. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. There were people in the chat room that were on the same page as you, asking the same questions, and I kind of addressed it in chat rather than on air, and I should have done that differently. I'm sorry. And I don't mean to be confusing. No, I just have a hard time articulating what's in my head.
I was going to say that you and I have had discussions where I've had to actually, it was like pulling your wisdom teeth out, trying to get exactly where your position was. But I can say this, Val, and to all the listeners, Joe is not laying down. What he's saying is the most important thing to concentrate on. What I believe him to say is, of course, the spiritual component of this. And that doesn't mean lying down. It means putting your priorities toward the spiritual aspect, because we do know how the story ends. But yes, we have to occupy. We are the occupying army. We are the salt and the light of the earth. Until God comes back, until we're taken home. So we have to have that level of occupation, that level of fight, that determination, as well as that spiritual aspect. And Joe's very, very in tune with the spiritual part of things. But this is what families are talking
90
about.
seconds.
Across the dinner table, across the United States and elsewhere. But I think it's so important. But
Val, thanks for the email. And please, any other questions you ever have, send them, as well as anybody else.
Just write your questions on the back of a $50 bill and send them to. Never mind. I'm just kidding.
Your local soup kitchen. No.
Yeah, there you go.
Tomorrow night, our special Saturday show with Pastor Langford and Mr. Steve Quayle from 9 to midnight Eastern Time. Yes, it will be.
60 seconds.
And Sunday is Mother's Day. For those of you who are mothers, we love you. We could not do or be here without you. And you are obviously, very important part of our life. I know my mother, I wouldn't be who I am today if she wasn't who she was. And I'm sure that's the case for most people.
Please, listeners, if you have your mothers, give them a hug. If you are a mother, thank you for everything you've done for your children. We love you, and you're such an important part in our lives. One last thing I want to say in closing. In preparation, eyesight and dental work. Get them done.
10 seconds.
We will see you tomorrow night if you are here. If not, definitely download the archive for the show tomorrow night, and we will see you back here Monday at 8 p.m. Stay safe, everyone, and God bless you all.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.